Hello and welcome to episode 290 of The Crate and Crowbar. It is the 2nd of August 2019. My name is Chris Thurston and tonight I'm joined by Tom Francis.
Hello.
And who's this? It's Tom Senior.
I'm back, everyone.
Where's he been?
I've been dead on the other side for months.
Oh no.
It was much cooler there than the summer we've had in this terrible burning country.
What, in hell where you were? I don't know what it is you just claimed.
No,
to.
the cold, the coolness of the grave.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you're at Marsh's old place.
So yeah, congratulations on coming back to life.
I'm still dead. I'm a ghost.
Oh, I see.
A cool ghost.
Oh, that's
Different
taken.
podcast.
We can't. That's a different podcast. We can't.
I'm overflowing with hot takes is the main thing.
Okay, yeah.
Or cold takes.
I'm actually, it's quite hot in this room as well, so no ghost could be cool in here.
That's very true.
Sweaty takes. That's the only thing we can offer.
Yeah, I've missed doing the pod. It's been sad. There's been too many things happening in like moving house and
In the
E3
grave.
and things.
Yeah.
And also the grave, yeah. Battling demons, etc. But yeah, it's good to be back.
Did you just mutter battling demons, etc., as something that you would be doing in the grave?
Yeah.
You were playing a lot of Devil May Cry when you were last on the pod. So.
I think it's just a whole Diablo thing as well. I'm still playing Diablo.
It's good to have you back.
Yeah, thank you.
Why don't you let us know what you have been playing?
Well, I've been playing a bunch of games that seem to have come out like in the last sort of year, that are all harking back to the very kind of early retro kind of FPS shooters, your Duke Nukem's, that kind of stuff, Doom, Quake, and I've basically just spent £80 buying all of them up on Steam, just because I wanted to play them like one by one. So the one I played the most is called Amid Evil. And by the way, that's in all caps. And most of the games like this are in all caps on Steam. So, it's just part of the brand, really. This is kind of a Hexen-like thing where it's like set in a fantasy world. But the weapons are really, really fun, as they were in Hexen as well. Stuff like, there's something that looks like a twig and then you pick it up and it's actually a kind of twiggy claw that is holding a kind of small planet. And then when you shoot it, it homes in and it's basically like a grenade launcher, but it is the strangest, weirdest grenade launcher you've ever used in a game. And there's like, you've got a staff with homing shots that is good for taking down flyers, but, once you've got your full kind of, I don't know, mulch juice, whatever the bar that is, whatever a medieval decides to call your kind of mana pool, you can activate it and overcharge whatever weapon you're using. So that turns into like a submachine gun basically with homing bullets that just take stuff out. There's a sword that hits multiple things and ricochets off surfaces, which activate the kind of mega mode for it.
Wait, do you throw the sword?
You slash the sword and a kind of like, phantasmal blade spins out and it hits multiple enemies.
One of them.
Yeah, one of them.
Phantasmal blade.
The old phantasmal blade. It's just, I've had so much fun with these games because they kind of rediscovered a bunch of things that I think modern shooters and modern kind of game design has forgotten in a kind of attempt to make you always feel embodied in a character. Like looking down, seeing your body, or just a sense of weight to your movement, or a sense of kind of, realistic hand animations and reload animations. That's very much like de rigueur has been the standard for the last sort of 15 years probably in FPS design. So it's absolutely refreshing to go back and play these games where you're just a fucking ghost with a gun. Like
You're a cool ghost.
You're a cool ghost with a gun, and the gun doesn't have to be a gun. It could be just the wildest thing that's come out of the developer's imagination, and the sense of freedom of just gliding through these levels with that super speed and instant responsiveness, because it doesn't even pretend you have a body. You know what I mean? Like it's just you are just the flying vengeance gun monster that is designed to clear out these levels. Another one I've been playing is Dusk. And that one's entirely 3D. So Medieval is like, your weapons are 2D sprites.
Oh, I just got the pun.
Yeah, is it a pun?
A medieval, as in medieval.
Because I just heard it.
When you said it then, I was like, hang on, you just described the setting. Oh no! Oh shit, it's a pun!
Oh no, I did not realise. Making discoveries on this podcast, that's good. It's got 2D, so it's 2D sprites. They're like really they're kind of very, very lovingly animated, as in, it's the bare minimum number of frames for the actual animation, but it really sells what the weapon's supposed to do. And that's true of, like another one is Ion Fury, is another one of these games, which is also in early access at the moment.
That's the one where Iron Maiden sued them, right?
Yeah, in a super cool rock and roll move, they decided to sue Iron Maiden and change
the other way around, right? Who sued who?
The band Iron Maiden sued the game Ion Maiden.
I see.
And now Ion Maiden is Ion Fury.
Yeah. Oh, I get you. Right, yeah.
But whenever I boot up my like kind of early access version of it, it says Ion Fury in Steam, but when you go in the game, it still says Iron Maiden and all the kind of splash art and stuff. Yeah, God, what a dick move. That sucks. Come on, Iron Maiden.
Yeah, whose business are they going to lose?
Exactly. How is it going to damage their trademark? It's the most heavy metal game ever as well. Like,
it's also a tribute to the torture device as much as anything else, right? Like, they weren't sued by some, like, 15th century, like,
absolutely,
dungeon operator. Yeah. Come on, dads.
It's very disappointing. It's very disappointing. And Iron Maiden is a game where, again, I'm kind of fascinated by the interaction between 2D sprites and 3D environments in these games particularly. And especially with modern attempts to kind of recreate that with a requisite amount of jankiness, but also a kind of a retro spirit that's really fun. So there's like a revolver that you have in Iron Maiden at the start, and you can hold down the right mouse button and kind of tag enemies and then do a kind of Wild West fanning the revolver as it just instantly kills everyone, which is actually quite a modern, like that wasn't really a type of weapon you'd get back then. It's actually,
it's like the smart gun from Titanfall.
Exactly right. Yes. It's like, oh, you've done the smart gun, but also with this cool 2D, in a 3D world aesthetic. And, I love that sort of anachronistic clash of ideas in these retro shooters that are definitely like, then that makes them not purely just nostalgia. It's not purely about just doing the same thing again. It's actually taking ideas from modern shooters and then put them back into this kind of cool aesthetic and with the freedom of movement and freedom of speed of movement and a kind of zany approach to level design, because levels don't have to make sense in the way that, a modern military shooter would have to make physical sense. And Dusk in particular is brilliant for this. And Dusk is a bit more like Quake in that everything is 3D, so everything is like polygonal.
Is everything also brown?
A lot of it is brown, yeah.
Okay.
But it's kind of, it's genre hopping as well. So there are like 2 or 3 different campaigns, and one's like a horror hexen type thing. Another one is like, you're in a kind of sort of weird hillbilly horror, that type of, that whole genre. And another one is somewhere else that I've forgotten. But all the guns, again, no hands. You just reload by spinning them, and then you're just a floating weapon. And it's really empowering and really, really fun. And all the people who are creating these games are just obviously really deeply understand what makes Doom 2 today still really, really fun to play.
Do any of these games have regenerating health?
Good question. No, actually.
Picking up chicken dinners.
No, it's chicken dinners all the way. Yeah. Or just like random crystals or random little blobs. And, so in, a medieval, you've got, different types of mana for different types of weapon, and they're color coded. So you've got like blue and green and something else. And that whenever you pick up like a green ammo, there's 3 green weapons that will be recharged by that. Again, that's like, playing with the old formulas. It's not just ammo isn't just straightforwardly ammo. It's not like chicken dinners where you just run over and get health, or run over something that looks like a clip and get ammo. There's a little bit of game to it. There's a little bit more kind of, something more mechanically interesting to it than just the old fashioned way of doing it.
The most, like looking at Doom today, one of the most retro things about it that stands out to a modern eye is the HUD, where you, like the whole bottom panel, right. It lists, how much ammo you have of all 8 types and the maximum capacity. So there's like 16 numbers there of like 3 digits each, just on screen at all times.
Because you might need to know. Exactly. You might need to really
How many plasma cells do I have?
I wonder if that was almost like a technical thing where this old RTSs used to do this. The reason why old RTSs used to have massive UIs is because you only have to render a smaller screen and have a 2D thing taking up the rest of it.
And that was like the graphics options. You couldn't change resolution. You could just put a border around the screen and make the screen smaller and smaller.
Yeah,
it was amazing.
Which is why it's hilarious that persisted for so long, when games could technically show an entire full screen RTS battle, but they still kept the giant because audience expected it. It's kind of interesting. I think that's true of shooters as well. I've had a great time going through these games. Like Blood has been re-released as well.
Oh, yeah.
So I've mentioned Medieval, Dusk, Iron Maiden, and Blood. That's the 4, but I'm sure there are more as well. There are more coming out. It's just a lovely thing to see new developers going back to that era.
Yeah. I can't remember if I said this before, but I was watching someone play the new Blood, and they're playing level 1. And I think there are like 12 secrets on level 1. And, like the first level of Doom, it's just like a corner. You just walk forwards, you go left, and you've completed the level. But there's so many secrets, just everything. You can get on top of this thing, and there's a secret door in here. And like half of them I had never seen, and I'd played that game through like 8 times.
Yeah, that spirit is intact as well. There's loads of secrets in all of these games. They just, Dusk in particular, I want to give a shot. I think Dusk is my favorite one because the levels are just really funny. Like, they're actual, they're kind of jokes a lot of the time. They'll trick you in the little traps that are just very hilarious. Like you're going to like a ruined farmhouse in the Hillbilly Horror, one, and then a floor will collapse and a giant fan will propel you up 3 stories into an ambush where like loads of people with pitchforks will charge you. And those moments are just of surprise. And then you go down underground, a couple of levels, and then suddenly a giant alligator is attacking you, and there's just a boss fight with a giant alligator for no reason. And it's very funny. It's really like well observed humor, just really playing with the FPS kind of expectations.
I kind of miss that, like, setting playfulness. Like, what happens when you don't have lore? You just have a bag of things people think are cool, which is very much the Quake thing, right?
Yeah.
Right,
like,
yeah.
Are we making a fantasy game? Are we making a sci-fi game? Are we making a Lovecraftian game? Yes.
Yeah.
Like,
Apparently that's how it happened with Quake. Like, different people in the team wanted to set it in different time periods. So they just said, yep, all right, you do your chapter, you do your chapter, and like, fuck cohesiveness.
Yeah,
It'll just
right.
be fucking portals. We'll just put portals, and then you just go into a portal to that place.
or like Serious Sam, which is a good example of this, which is like, it's ancient Egypt, but, I don't know, maybe. Like, I like that in a way, because I think it sort of almost highlights how unnecessary a lot of world building is in certain games. Not to say that video game world building is always unnecessary, but it's not always, the be all and end all. And actually, I was thinking about this lately in a completely different context, because I think it's, you can be cynical about it, but the journey away from anywhere near its original concept or its original fiction that Fortnite has been on. I think what made me think about this was watching the trailer. I don't play Fortnite, but I watched the trailer for the new season. And it's like, you have mechs that multiple people can play, and there are, anti-grav zones, and, the map is a mixture of fairgrounds of different kinds basically bolted together. There is no cohesion to it. There is a sort of a story in the sense that the community goes and solves these ARGs and things, but it really is just a massive grab bag of things people think are cool. And a million miles from, this is a zombie survival co-op game, right? Where it would have started life. And presumably there is someone at Epic whose job it was to sit down once upon a time and write the world Bible for Fortnite Save the World as it was, right? Like, this is why there are zombies. This is what's going on. No, it just doesn't matter now, right? Like, it's the biggest thing in the world, and any semblance of cohesion is utterly gone. It's completely embraced. People, whatever skins they want, all the rest of it. I think maybe, and yet people obviously really invest in that. So I think maybe cohesive world building is a little bit overvalued when it comes to what people want from
certain types of games.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, I mean, imagine if they put out, rather than doing this annual little thing, imagine if they put out the new Call of Duty and you asked them, like, which one is it this time? Is it modern? Is it World War II? Is it a abortive attempt at future again? And there's like all of them. Like, we've just done all of them. Like, in multiplayer, it's all of them. You can be a World War II man with a Thompson and fight a cyborg. And that sounds good. I'd actually play that.
Time splitters, yeah.
Time splitters, basically. But yeah, so you said Dusk was your favourite out of them.
Yeah, I think so. Just because I love the feel of the guns and I get the sense of humour, particularly.
Have you played Strafe? That's the other one I've heard of.
Good question. I feel like I have actually, but I don't remember much about it.
That one's a bit older, I think. That was kind of one of the first
Was that like a sci-fi
revival ones.
Yes, it is. It is sci-fi.
Shooting lots of robots in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm certain I played it, yeah.
That was just after Devil Daggers, which for me was the beginning of this.
God, Devil Daggers is good.
Actually, on the Devil Daggers thing, because Devil Daggers has incredible sound, which of them has the best sound? Because sound's really, really important.
Oh, one thing I'd say, actually, a Medieval has a very weak sound.
Oh.
And not just the soundtrack. You want like a really hardcore, good soundtrack. It doesn't really have that, but also the weapons are all very whooshy because they're all magical. And there are ways to do this, but they've not quite hit it. And you get the same kind of monster grunts every time they die, and they just sound sort of faintly disappointed. Like that. And, every time you kill something, it's just that noise. And you don't feel powerful when that happens. It's just like, oh, the monster's gone to sleep. My whooshy sword made it go to sleep. Oh, good. Yeah. Whereas Medieval's nice because it's properly guns, a really nice shotgun, good soundtrack.
Properly guns is a really
properly guns. It's properly guns. That's a good tagline for these games. That's a very Alan Partridge way of reviewing a first-person shooter. Dusk is good. Iron Maiden is good as well. That they've put loads of effort into the soundtrack. But Medieval, not quite there. You're right. It's important. It is.
what you've been playing, Tomf.
I'm playing two things, and I'll talk about the newer one first, which is Nowhere Profit, which is a deck building roguelike that is usually compared to Slay the Spire. I actually think it's more like Hearthstone plus roguelike, in that, I mean, you're crossing like a land, it's a post-apocalyptic thing, and the sort of navigation screen looks like an FTL where you're sort of choosing what node to go to next, and there's very limited choice, and it'll be a fight or a reward or a choice or something. But then when you're in a fight, you kind of like Hearthstone and Magic, you sort of have this pool of hit points. You're sort of on the battlefield, but not like a unit that you can move around. And you deploy units to the battlefield, and the enemy has theirs, and when you attack with a unit, you choose whether to attack one of their units or them themselves, like their hit point pool. And I haven't got...
Sounds a bit like Duelist. Do you play Duelist?
No.
Okay.
I'd be interested... You played Hearthstone a fair bit, right? Did you play it, Tom?
Yeah, in the first year. And then sort of
I really want to know what someone who likes Hearthstone a lot thinks of this, because I have struggled with it a little bit, and it's partly because I've never really clicked with that format of game where there's minions to attack and there's the actual enemy themselves to attack. And, it always kind of seems better to just attack the actual hit points pool of the enemy. Because if you attack the enemy minions, the way this works, and I think this is true of Hearthstone and Magic as well, is if I have like a minion that has 3 health and 3 attack, and you have a minion that has 3 health and 3 attack, and I attack yours with mine, they'll just kill each other, because they both have 3 damage to each other, they both have 3 health, so like both of them get to attack. There is no like attacker's advantage. And so I shouldn't. I should just attack you instead, because if I attack you, you have 3 less health, I don't lose anything. That's like a big net win for me, whereas if I attack your minion, it's just net neutral. And if on your turn, either you attack me, in which case that's if that's the best strategy, then that proves the point. Or if you attack my minion, just what happens on your turn is what would have happened on my turn, but I didn't have to spend a turn doing it. So I think in Hearthstone, I felt that way in the tutorial of Hearthstone, but I never got into the meat of the game, so I can't vouch for like what it's like when you get into actual strategy and actual challenge. But in this, the amount of health the enemy has varies a lot depending on, I'm playing on the easiest difficulty. And in the early game, they'll have like 7 hit points, and like a typical unit can do like 3 damage. So it's like, basically on turn 2, I just get to win. By that point, I have 2 things down, and I probably have some kind of power that does like 1 damage. So unless they put down a taunt unit, which is the thing where, if there's a taunt unit on the board, then you have to attack that instead of anything else. If they don't do that, then I just get to kill them. And it's not that it's too easy overall. Like my first game, I just got absolutely destroyed in the second fight. Like the tutorial fight, I suppose it wasn't a tutorial fight, just the first fight was very easy. I didn't lose none of my guys got injured, and I didn't lose a single hit point. And then the next fight, I just got completely destroyed, literally all the way from full health to death, in this one fight, because the guy kept putting down taunt things, and I could only destroy them about the rate they put them down, but they're also doing a bunch of damage to me. And then my next run, I've just had a much easier time of it, and very rarely does an enemy put the taunt thing down. I just think I don't like the taunt thing as a mechanic, because as I say, and I can't speak to Hearthstone and Magic, but in this game, it really is a very good idea to attack the enemy hit point pool if you possibly can. If they have 8 health, like, this is not this is a sprint, not a marathon. Like, you don't need to be scaling up and powering up and worrying about your synergies and engine and stuff. It's just, if I just get 3 fucking units to attack you, this fight is over. So there's no point in me messing around with the minion thing. And then if they have a taunt thing, obviously that counters that strategy. But it does so in a really just sort of abstract kind of sledgehammery way. It's just like, you just can't attack me because of this rule. Like, it's not really fleshed out in like, why can't any of my people, like, it's not even that taunt things don't just prevent you from attacking the enemy hit point pool, they prevent you from attacking any other minion. Like, literally nothing else can be damaged except this one taunt thing. And so thematically it's kind of feels very sort of false. And then just mechanically, it's just boring. It's just, they put down a taunt thing, I've got to hit the taunt thing. It just takes all choice out of it. I have to hit the taunt thing. So, if you have a whole load of damage and you can easily defeat the taunt thing, then you spend some time thinking about, okay, which unit is it most efficient to use up on this taunt guy? But the rest of the time, it's just, well, I just got to attack that, so I do, and then he puts down another one, and then I just got to attack that, so I do, and it just feels like that's boring to do, and then you don't know on their turn whether they're going to put one down, so every time they do, you're just like, oh, okay, fine, just got to waste another turn on this shit. And I don't know, I can't speak to whether No Eye Prophet is like a good or bad implementation of this mechanic, but I think I just don't like the mechanic. It's just so heavy-handed, it's so knife edge. If they don't taunt, it's trivially easy. If they do taunt, it's a slog of unknown length that could be super difficult to get through, or maybe they'll just stop on turn 2 and then I kill them.
So in Magic, there's loads of ways around taunt enemies that don't involve you just attacking them with monsters. So, for example, there's a black spell that's been in it forever called Hand of Death, which just kills a monster. You just spend 1 mana, and as a black deck, you just delete that thing. So if the opponent's big gambit is to put loads of taunt out, then against certain types of black deck, they're just going to get deleted. So there's counterplay to that that is more interesting, because like, do you need to get rid of that taunt, or would you rather kind of buff your own units up and then wait a couple of turns? And that's probably true of Hearthstone as well, though I'm not very familiar with its kind of current meta.
I think it's fair to say that in all of these games, a lot, like, taunt, if taunt is the only kind of special keyword you're seeing, then I completely understand why it's working out that way. There should be other keywords that mess things up in interesting ways, or spells, or the equivalents of spells that create these other strategies. Because really, like, because what you're kind of describing feels like a game where what would be called going for the face in most of these contexts is always right. So basically aggro playstyles are always optimal, which means that games are just really about who can draw more damage. And then, and obviously with variable health pools, that has a weird relationship with that. In Magic or in Hearthstone, it would come down to deck archetypes. So aggro, control, kind of like growth decks that maybe sacrifice early to get a mana advantage that they can then trade into damage that the other player can't deal with. There is scenarios like where, for example, you don't want to go for the face because this particular minion that your opponent has just played will enable them to trigger a combo, which will get them way ahead a couple of turns from now. So you don't go for the face in that case because you want to stop this combo before it can happen. But that might have been a feint. They might not be holding on to those other cards they need. So you've just wasted a turn killing this thing and maybe sacrificing an own unit to do it. That's where card game play comes from. Is that like, is this a feint? Is this real? What else is this interacting with? How well do I know what they might have?
Yeah, and that sounds like a lot of that comes from the symmetry of it. The fact that, I mean, A, they have a health pool as big as yours, so it's going to last a decent amount of time, which is not true here. And then B, once you are properly into that game, you've probably played with a deck like theirs, and so you have some idea of what it can and can't do. Whereas here, I mean, I guess if you play it enough, you'll get a feel for like, oh, this faction tends to have these kinds of cards, but you're never going to be playing as those people, so you'll never have like that intimate knowledge of like, I know what it's like to have these kinds of cards.
How does mana work?
You start with 3, and every turn it's replenished and the max is increased by 1.
So it's like Hearthstone. Because Magic is different, because Magic has a mad system to do with
how
many fields.
Like lands, and tap them.
You do tap, sometimes
tap on that field.
Sometimes you could tap a swamp.
And also you can have like multiple different types of mana, like you can have a red-black deck and have fire wastelands and also swamps that
and you have some like combined lands that can be one or the other,
and also neutral. Right.
It does still have the sort of general pattern of like the amount of available mana increases over the course of the game, right?
It does, but it's more about but it interacts with card draw, which it doesn't in Hearthstone. So
that's to me, that's one of the reasons this does not feel like Slay the Spire doesn't feel like a good comparison point for this, because that is, you get 3 energy per turn. If you ever upgrade it, it'll be like an hour into your run, and then it's 4 energy per turn forever.
Deal,
There's no, over the course of a run, you're not escalating in that particular way. You're escalating in different ways.
Slay the Spire does away with a really important concept, which is the mana curve. So when you're building a deck in Hearthstone or in Magic, you consider what the curve is. And there isn't necessarily a correct curve. There's just different strategies. So if you have lots of really cheap cards, you're going to be able to do more early. And you're going to get to a point where when you're on your 4 or 5 mana turn, you will be able to play several minions or something like that. But if your opponent has either spells that clear the board easily, or simply weathers that storm, they may be planning to be able to field more expensive cards later. And that's, you talk about mid-game decks or mid-range or late, that is where you're right, that texture comes from it ultimately being not symmetrical in that everyone has the same stuff, but symmetrical in that everyone has the opportunity to build out of the same pool of options.
This definitely has that kind of aspect of the deck where your deck is sorted by mana cost, and you'll have some 1 energy guys, some 2 energy guys, some 3 energy guys, all that to about 6 or 7 is the highest I've seen, I think. And I've just taken those out of my deck, the 6 or 7 guys, because I'm like, by energy 4, I've either won or it's or I'm not going to make it to energy 7. And it's really, one thing I do like about it is that the metaphor for like what these cards are is really strong, because you're a prophet and you're leading a sort of convoy of people who I guess believe in you or whatever it is you're leading them to across this wasteland. And every person in your convoy is a card, and equally every card is a person in your convoy. And it's just, interestingly, you seem to have...
the driving licenses of the people who've pledged themselves to your control.
Yeah, I think it's... you don't really see it so far, but I've been picturing it as like a kind of caravan thing where there's like a whole load of people and only a few vehicles. But you seem to be able to just choose which ones are in your deck or not. Like they're all the people in your convoy are the cards you have access to, but at the start of a fight, you just choose what your deck is going to be out of those people. And it can't be more than those people, but it could include all of them, or it could, I think there's an upper limit, but I've never gone anywhere near it. And for me, because I realized I'm winning games so early, or games are decided so early, I just kind of took out all the higher cost cards. And I also just took out all the boring ones, just anyone who's just a health and an attack value. I just took them out and just kept the ones that have some kind of interesting perk in addition to that, because most of those just seem to be straight up better. And this is like so different to Slay the Spire, where like, God, if I could get rid of the trash from my deck, it would be so much more powerful. And this, you are a bit more powerful. I think what I don't know is there must be some downside to doing this. So I assume there's some kind of minimum. I assume I can't just pick my favorite card and only have that. Or maybe you can, because
do you redraw the card once it's been played?
Well, that's what I don't know, is my games have never gone long enough for my deck to actually cycle, even with my reduced deck. My reduced deck is like maybe 12 cards or something, and I've never got through all of those. So I don't know if you just flat out run out if you have too small of a deck, or whether it does get recycled. It might be interesting if it just runs out, because then there's a reason to have a bigger deck, but that's more random, and you could get dealt your high value stuff early when you can't use it. It does feel like there's a load of... separately to that, you have your leader deck, which is your spells, kind of. And they're just things you can directly do, just like do 2 damage or buff one of my minions by 1/1. And that one is handled totally separately. They don't represent people, they're just abilities you have. And you can't remove things from that freely. And every time you level up, you get to choose 1 new card for that deck, and you also get 1 kind of remove point. So I guess your deck is staying the same size if you always choose to remove. You don't have to. But you're kind of making it better because you get to remove your least favorite card and add 1 that you may like. Although actually the first time I got offered 3 cards, they were all terrible. And I ended up spending the remove point that I got with the same level up to remove the one I just added. Could I just like go back to how it was?
Imagine that poor settler trying to latch onto this caravan. He's like, "You're accepted. No, I hate you. Go away."
So this is the leader deck where they're not people.
Oh, I
this
see.
is just like the abstract things of like, I could shoot you or something. But there are story events will be often involved. There's some group of people who are being attacked or something, and you rescue them. When you rescue them, they just join your convoy, and often they're really cool, and you want to actually use those cards. If a minion gets taken out in combat, that card gets an injury on it. And if it gets 2 injuries, it just dies forever.
That's interesting.
Yeah. It hasn't been a problem yet because it's quite, I don't think a minion can die twice in the same fight, because I think once they die in a fight, they're out of the fight forever, even though the card is not yet lost. It's just wounded.
Right.
And then, like I say, you have total control over what you field. So at the start of every combat, you can just take out all the wounded people, and then you're never running the risk of ever losing anybody. So that's kind of interesting. Maybe it gets to the point where it's so desperate that you have to field some wounded people. There's a kind of interesting dynamic there where if the card is wounded, it starts with 1 less health than it would normally have. But it also costs 1 less to play. So there's kind of an upside to having the wounded thing.
Yeah.
It's like,
well, a kind of fodder that you sort of deploy.
Right,
in the game.
Item cost no mana because I've got a gammy leg.
If the taunt thing was less pronounced, like the game right now, it feels like the game's all about taunt. And when I get access to taunt cards, I just automatically include them because it just seems like a free win, basically. Like, you have to waste your turn on this, and these guys will do damage to you when you do. But behind that, all the other mechanics do seem really interesting. There've just been a bunch of like kind of cool mechanics that sort of like kind of indirect mechanics. Like one of my guys who I'm actually not fielding anymore because he costs too much mana, but the concept is interesting, which is every time a friendly minion dies, he gains 1/1. So you want, if you put him down in a taunt minion, that's great because they have to attack the taunt one, so he's going to be stronger no matter what. And in theory, there's been a bunch of times where at the end of my turn I realized, shit, I could have done something cool there, which is I knew I was going to use up a bunch of my minions to throw themselves against the enemy taunt ones and that they were going to die in the process because I had a bunch of like trash minions. That was fine. But I forgot to actually play that guy at the start instead of I played him at the end of my turn and realized, shit, if I played him at the start, he would be like 3 stronger by now because I knew I was going to lose those guys. And then obviously, on the enemy turn, they might do something like that. I also had a cool thing where every time I do damage to the enemy leader with like one of my cards, one of the leader cards, something in my convoy deck, the people, gets 1 mana cheaper. So by hurting them, I'm kind of making it easier to play stuff. And so there are a bunch of little things like that. There's this obstacle system, which is kind of strange in that there's obstacles on the field when you start. They take up like a grid cell. And if they're in front of you, only the front thing, you can only attack if you're the frontmost thing in your like row of the battlefield, which most of the time is not too much of a problem. But if there's an obstacle at the front of it, then you can't attack from that column until you destroy until the obstacle is destroyed. But the weird thing is I can't find a way to attack them. I can attack obstacles on the enemy side, but I can't attack obstacles on my side. So I just have to sort of hope the enemy doesn't want them to be there and gets rid of them, which is very strange. It feels like an interface thing. Maybe there's a way to do it, but like clicking on them doesn't work, right-clicking on them doesn't work, dragging things into them doesn't work. Clicking on the obstacle, you get a very snarky message about obstacles can't act. Yeah, I know that. I was trying to see if there's some kind of way I can get rid of it. And then like some obstacles could be cover, which means you can fire out from behind them, but they protect you from incoming damage, which is cool, but it's only come up like once and was not combat relevant.
Yeah, weird.
Yeah, I need to play more of it to have a...
It sounds like a lot of the issues you described come from the health pools of the opponents and maybe the difficulty level.
Like I say, I'm on the easiest difficulty level, and my first game, I got my ass kicked, so I didn't think it was too easy. But then this game, I'm doing so well that and this is kind of a bad sign with a roguelike, I haven't died, I just kind of stopped playing, which is very rare in a roguelike. Like your second run does not usually last long enough for you to get bored of it. And I'm kind of like, I'm not completely bored of it, I'll go back to this run, but I just got to the point where I'm like, phew, okay, I had enough of this for a while.
I'd say the new Magic, the Gathering game is good.
Arena, yeah, I've been playing it.
Yeah, it's one of the, because I think it's quite a low bar because the previous official ones they released were pretty kind of chunky and slow and difficult to use, and also just felt like add-ons. You didn't get full access to all the cards. Whereas in this one, the whole card kind of ecology is available to you if you're able to pay money and kind of unlock decks and things like that. But in terms of as an interface thing, as a card game on your PC, it's a really slick, nice thing. And I think it's about time they did that.
And actually, genuinely, if you're interested in card games, I think Magic Arena, because it's free and it's got a tutorial, is like the best way to learn how Magic the Gathering works, even if you don't play beyond a certain amount. And actually, I think if you are interested in card games at all, knowing how Magic works is super useful, because it's like, this was the origin of so many ideas that are in so many things.
Yeah, absolutely.
That like, and it's quite intimidating to learn as a tabletop thing because it's quite complicated. And I think it's got a lot of ideas, like in terms of how you assign damage and how you set up not initiative, but how the phases work, like timing windows and rules windows and things that are, I can understand why both tabletop games and digital games haven't aspired to recreate them, because they are quite complicated.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of end of phase, start of phase stuff that is, I think it's necessary, but it can be, I'd understand why it'd be off-putting. But actually the video game handles that like as best as it possibly can. It's quite useful, I think. Like I think, because I'd played a little bit of Magic, but like I was certainly never as into it as you were, Tom. But like playing Arena was like, oh, okay, I can come back to coming back to it post Artifact, post Hearthstone, lots of other things. It's like, oh, I see. Like, you start to see the genesis of certain things.
I think there's a really nice sort of aesthetic quality to Magic. Like the art's beautiful.
Yeah.
Like they get such good artists to do their stuff, and seeing a modern video game with proper like high resolution scans of that art that doesn't slow the game down. You can zoom in on them up close. It's got all the lore and stuff. It's in italics on all the cards. Like it's really authentic and true to the game. And it's very good.
Does it have an AI you can play against?
Yeah, it's got loads. And it's got quite a nice kind of system where it sort of trickles decks to you. So you keep on playing with the deck you like, and then you get points that you can put into a little kind of small XP web that unlocks different cards, and then eventually different decks that are kind of it's a really nice single player system for introducing you to hybrid decks and more the complicated tenets of Magic.
I think it has quite a brutal shelf from that into ranked play, where it's like suddenly people who've been with big collections, plonk down at your table and annihilate you.
Right,
but the journey there is, I think, really worth taking if you're interested in this kind of game.
Yeah,
because it's like
absolutely.
pretty comprehensive education in how it works until you start to encounter certain cards you have that represent 15 years of rules creep. And like, what the
Absolutely.
fuck is this? Like it's an Excel spreadsheet printed on a picture of a wizard, and someone throws it at you and now you've lost, which is the other side of the Magic experience.
It does happen.
What's that, Scheherazade one where to resolve this attack, you have to go and play another game of Magic?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So, but so Nowhere Prophet is in early access?
No, it's fully out.
Oh, it's fully out. Oh, cool. That's nice. Maybe I should play it.
Yeah. Sort of mixed recommendation for me. I think it's probably, like I say, I'm on the easiest difficulty and I'm complaining that it's too easy. So take that with a pinch of salt.
Yeah.
I will restart probably on a harder one, now that I understand the mechanics a bit better, and I'm definitely going to keep on with it. But yeah, it's weird. I can't tell whether my objections to it are objections to this kind of game or whether it's their particular implementation. What have you been up to, Chris?
I'm going to talk about a console game, and no one's going to stop me because it is relevant to our collective interests.
Normally I would stop you, but actually I'm really interested in this one.
Would you normally stop me?
No.
I am going to talk about Fire Emblem Three Houses, which I believe you've played as well, Tom.
Yeah, I played a bunch. Bought it over the weekend as kind of payday treat, and I've been enjoying it.
Yeah. So I want to talk about it because I think Fire Emblem has come up almost every time we talk about the genre of I want to figure out first and foremost what the genre is called, because XCOM is the reference we always go to. But BattleTech is in this genre. There's lots of games in this genre. You're making a game in this genre, sort of.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just turn-based, it's turn-based tactics plus management, basically, plus people management.
Kind of meta element.
Yeah, there's got to be a meta element. I almost kind of want to call them sort of campaign tactics games or something, because they,
Right, I see.
maybe because I think about this a lot from a tabletop point of view, that they capture something that I've always loved in these games, which is you do a battle, but the consequences of the battle really matter because the effect they have on the people that you're managing. That's why people play XCOM and Iron Man. You want to have that satisfaction of developing squads and then seeing them succeed or fail and all the rest of it. And Fire Emblem has always sat on the fringes of this because obviously it's a console strategy series, that very much exists in this place, and it's just been sort of plowing its own furrow quietly on the side. And it's the only game I always think there are lessons to take from Fire Emblem to apply back to everything else. And normally that lesson is there should be kissing and everything. Which is glib, but basically the whole appeal of Fire Emblem is the management aspect of it is way more prominent than the battle aspect, I would argue.
Yeah.
Particularly early in a Fire Emblem game. I would say I'm 10, 15 hours into Three Houses, and I would say that clearly 75% of my time has been spent doing things other than battles.
Yeah.
Easily. And actually, because it's this Fire Emblem, one weakness of the series, it's definitely reflected in this one is, I'm still in the tutorial. It's still introducing mechanics. It's really yet to let me off the chain. And therefore the battles have been interesting, but they're only interesting because of the characters and the relationships that are developing. There's usually a bit of a Fire Emblem game, and I think I can feel it coming in this one, where it starts to finally it's finished introducing every individual type of thing. It's gotten to the point where at hour 15, it finally reintroduces Pegasuses.
Right.
And then finally terrain matters in interesting ways, and the game starts. It's it takes a long time to get to that point. And its other great heritage is JRPGs. And you have to be prepared for a JRPG's quantity of just stuff you're going to get through.
I'm not sure I am prepared for this.
I'm not sure you are prepared for this. It's going to be really interesting because, and actually, Three Houses is mad as fuck. And I'm going to start,
The premise is something else.
yeah. So I want to, the premise is incredible. Basically, what the premise is a lawsuit waiting to happen in this. So essentially, in this, every Fire Emblem game, one thing that does make them more accessible, unlike like Final Fantasy, they sort of, each new Fire Emblem game is like a new version of the same universe. So the plot, there's no long-winded, there is long-winded plot, but there's no real, plot you need to know about from a previous game or anything like that.
Yeah.
But loads of the same elements reoccur, and the protagonist always looks kind of the same.
Yeah.
And there's always going to be a fire emblem. They're just going to call it something slightly different. In this one, it's the flame crest. It's always slightly, there's, but the stories actually vary pretty wildly in terms of setup. And this one has the weirdest, I don't know how, they bent over backwards so many times to try and make it do everything they want to do, and it doesn't quite work, but it is incredible. So basically, at the start of the game, you and your dad are mercenaries. And then, while out being mercenaries, you rescue 3 kids from war school. And the three teens that are about your age, but not really, from War Academy, who are, each of them is the heir to the throne of a different fantasy kingdom, but they're all they're all going to school in the same war Hogwarts that is also basically the Vatican, or it has the relationship to the rest of the world that the Vatican did to the Holy Roman Empire.
Yeah, that's a good
So
image.
it's Battle Hogwarts is also the Vatican because it's presided over by the Magic Pope. Basically, this is what you need to know. And anyway, so they're very impressed by you and your dad. Your dad used to work for the Magic Pope at war school. So he just accepts, they're like, you have to come back. And he's like, okay. And you don't do anything else. But they're so impressed by you that they make you the new professor, even though your age is question mark, because, there's a dragon fairy pixie woman who lives in your brain who controls time. That's a different issue. There's, anyway, so you become the new professor of war, I guess, at war school. Basically slightly, and so I've seen this on Twitter. People so the first thing you have to do, it's cruel, the amount of decisions you have to make.
Yeah.
Naming a character, that's super hard. Because no one knows where you're from, the 3 heirs to these different kingdoms ask you really on, where are you from? And you just pick one. You pick one of their 3 kingdoms. And then you get asked, I don't know why they would ask a new teacher this, which house do you want? Because the idea is there are 2 teachers when you join the school. One is our friend Matt Elliott as a wizard. And, one is, sexy Mrs. Crabapple from The Simpsons.
Yes. Yeah.
And they just say, we've been here for years, but you pick which house you want. We'll just take the other 2.
Yeah.
So it's a bit like choosing your starter Pokemon, basically.
Yeah.
And,
But how far into the game is this?
there's
Almost immediately.
Almost immediately.
So you have no idea who these houses are.
No, you basically get told, you get to ask questions about them. So the houses each also align with the kingdoms, somewhat. And so each house is like a collection of 9 students, which is going to be your party really for the rest of the game. It's mad. So there are 9 in each house and then a bunch of other characters. So each house has 9 students. Each student is a fully voiced companion, BioWare style companion character with quite a deep backstory, loads of relationship stuff, just, full conversation trees, all of that. You pick one, and then those are your students. And then the other 2 branches aren't locked to you, but that's it. And I've seen a lot of stuff on Twitter about people saying, if you don't join the Leicester Alliance, it's called the fucking Leicester Alliance.
Jesus Christ.
If you don't join the Leicester Alliance, you're a Tory, etc., etc. I would contest that when you're discussing the difference between houses in the fasci war school for horny teens, we're in a certain political space here where no one's, you know what I mean? There's not really a strong non-private school voice in this particular environment. It's also the whole thing is a lawsuit waiting to happen. Basically, and then you become the professor for this particular house. And the first mission is to kick the shit out of the other 2 houses in staged warfare. And this earns you the right to go on school trips. And so the way the game works, and this is great and mad, is you have a calendar and months pass. And there are these gorgeous hand-animated cutscenes to just introduce the concept of the month that it currently is. Like, it might be a reaping season, or the weather might change. And you get these almost like medieval dioramas of like, and almost poems about like
woodcuts as well.
Woodcuts of like how the season has changed. There is a plot, but every month, the Magic Pope gives you the month's mission. And that mission is always going to take place towards the end of the month. Like, the last Tuesday of the month or something. It'll be time for war. And the rest of the time is kind of up to you. So this is when I say it's much heavier on management. You choose what to do with your Saturdays. So on Saturday, you can choose to, but when you've got all the options unlocked, which takes a while, you can choose to attend a seminar from a visiting professor with your students and then level up in some ways. You can choose to go to war, to take your students out into the field to kill bandits.
Yes.
Like, there's this weird plot point, which is like, they take the students out, but the knights of the church always help, like they're on the periphery to help. So if the students are struggling to murder bandits in the woods, like there are knights are there, but this is like, a trial bloodletting, basically.
How humiliating for the bandits. It's just a trainee killing.
Particularly because some of the kids on the, like, cause you can see how old everyone is. Some of them are like 15.
Yeah.
And so like, and this is going to make everything else super weird.
Yeah, definitely.
And then, but the other thing you can choose to do is explore. And if you explore, you run around and you talk to everybody. And you run around the academy, which unlocks, and it's this massive place. And you run around, you chat, and everyone has things to say. And you find objects that they've lost. And there's like a quiz, because people have quite detailed backgrounds and you like preferences. And then it's like a quiz where you find an object. It's like, this looks like someone who cares about fashion, but quite old fashioned. And you can obviously try it on everybody, but you get a lot of reputation points if you find the person who this missing item belongs to and give it back to them. So it's basically, it's like how closely you've been paying attention to the character writing, basically, and the bios and stuff. You can go fishing, you can do some gardening. All of these level up your professor points and therefore your professor rank. And your professor rank affects how many actions you can do before you have to go to sleep. While you're being a professor.
And game mechanics.
Yeah. And being a professor, I should stress, involves a lot of doing the Naruto run around a school.
Yes. Yeah,
returning missing items, fishing and gardening. You can cook a meal and that will add a certain stat, boost a certain stat based on which ingredients you use for all of your students for the entire month. And you pick which student you want to cook with. And then they join you and then maybe
it's
they're
a
like,
potent meal.
Yeah, exactly. You can take 2 students to dinner. If you take 2 students to dinner, you have a chat, and if you pick the right meals for them and stuff, their motivation maxes out. And, this is important because on Sundays, you set the lesson plan for the subsequent week. And this is based on motivation, training people individually. You set goals for your students. Like, I think you want to get good at lances and horses because you're going to grow up to be a knight. And then you do their exams, and then they do exams to unlock classes, and they step into new classes, and it's, the management, like, it's busy work. It's gardening game, full busy work. Like, XCOM never asks you to do this degree of just, stuff, but it's quite effective. It has a sort of Animal Crossing type appeal, because it has that just sort of like, I'm just tending to my kind of crop of students and things. And then when you do go to battle, when people do actions well, when they're standing next to each other, they learn to like each other more. And then this then translates into them getting what is called support, where they go up a support rank. And when this happens, you get a cutscene where they talk to each other. And then this one's kind of weird because the first support cutscenes are almost always them arguing. And some of them are weirdly dark in ways that there's one really early on where which house did you choose?
So I chose the least popular house.
Oh yeah.
Blue one?
The blue one.
You're the Blue Lions.
I'm the Blue Lions, the knights, and they're all do-gooders and the paladins. You know?
Oh shit. I'm Black Eagle.
I thought
this is interesting because the like narrative I've heard is just that the golden whatever.
The golden deer.
Yeah.
It's Black Eagle.
That's what everyone is saying
Lion,
they're picking, and I was kind of dreading getting to that choice and being like, oh fuck, the one everyone else has picked is obviously the best one, and I've got to pick it and just be the same as everyone else.
Yeah, it's not true.
But it sounds like no.
So the reason why, well, it's partly because like they're a very positive do-gooder attitude, which I enjoyed. But the emo wizards were very appealing.
I went for the emo wizards.
The emo wizards were very appealing. The trouble was, so I'm playing on classic mode, and
same, yeah.
Yeah, so classic mode, if one of your students dies in a proper battle, they're dead forever, that's it. And you lose all of that dialogue and all of that extra kind of amazing character work that's been
it's always
that.
a weird thing for Fire Emblem.
But this one has like a rewind thing as well, right?
Yes, it does.
That is very helpful.
The time woman who lives in your brain does let you rewind 3 times.
Can help. But yeah, so the reason why I didn't go with the golden deer, is that what they're called?
Yeah.
Is because they're all archers and I don't want to die straight away. Like they each have different specialties, and the knights are obviously very good at lances and armor and stuff like that, and magic is always really powerful in Fire Emblem, so you don't really want bows at the start.
Yeah.
They become amazing later, but yeah.
I've got 2 archers in mine, and they're doing work, but yeah,
they do work.
My, I've got to the point now where, the leader of the Black Eagles is like this sort of like 5 foot tall princess of an ancient empire, but she's now a heavy knight, so she wears basically just like a fridge of plate mail armor and absolutely fuck things up with a 200 axe.
That's awesome. I love that about the game. The way that your students and your characters progress, just even in the first sort of 10 hours before the game really gets going, they're already acquiring new classes. And sometimes they'll come up to you as they're being tutored and be like, "Sir, can I be a swords master?" And then you could be like, "No!
Use this fucking axe!
Keep using that bow." Or you could just be like, "Yeah, do whatever you want to do. Just be your best you."
Yeah. The one thing it teaches you is the correct thing to do when a student asks you is to tell them exactly what they want to hear. Because it rewards you for that. It doesn't reward you for anything else.
No, that's true.
So,
Yeah.
But actually, like, the character writing, like, it's sort of standard fair JRPG stuff for the most part, but it's not bad by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah.
Like, the characters I would say are quite vividly drawn, and that's ultimately why the reason I picked the house I picked is because minimal, really annoying voices, which every other house has at least one character where you're like, "Oh, shut the fuck up."
Yeah.
Whereas actually, but otherwise, like, you know, all of them have a balance of personalities, and so you pick that. You can recruit from other houses, but you have to sufficiently impress them. You can also borrow someone from another house for a month, in which case they will come with your missions. And then there's a surrounding cast of teachers and other people who are around the school who you can also recruit, including the most sexually aggressive, like, apothecary. Like, she is, like, the first time you talk to her, she says, like, "Oh, I didn't think you'd be coming to visit me this soon, Professor. Close the door and we'll get on with it." And you're like, and then you sort of mutely reply, like, "I am not, I just wanted to ask if you wanted me to gather things from around the world." She's like, "Oh yeah, that as well." It's got a playfulness to it, but it also has, I think it has a strange relationship with, so different Fire Emblem games get to the, and now the kissing part at different points. And, Fire Emblem Awakening, which is my favorite game in the series, gets to it at a really interesting point and does something with it and a time skip, which I think is great. And obviously they can't pull that trick off multiple times. This one is actually for the most part, doing its best to deal with the fact that you are a professor and you are building relationships with and among your students. Like, they are, like, it basically says, like, you're 19, I guess, and therefore it's not weird, but it is weird by virtue of the fact that you have a position of authority.
Absolutely weird.
Like, it feels like there's a high school drama here, which is what it really is. And 90% of the dialogue all fits into that pattern. Apart from the fact that I think for game reasons, you need to be a professor, not a student. There's definitely a version of this game where you are the new student or the head student at the Vatican's Battle Academy, but that's not the game they wanted to make, because they wanted you to be planning the lessons and doing all of this development stuff.
Right.
So you kind of have to be a professor, but like really early on, the person who is most encouraging with you in this is the Pope, the Magic Pope, who's constantly telling you, like, don't fucking worry about it. Just make friends with your students. It's really important that you form a bond with them. Besides, you're all the same age. Don't worry about it. It's not weird at all. And, like, there's a great mission she gives you when you go back to the academy, when she's like, "I think some of your students are struggling. Have you considered giving them these herbs?" And it's like, is the Pope giving me weed? Like, don't worry, I'm a chill Pope. Like,
This
it's
is
cool
like,
here.
This is a classic video game problem, I guess, narrative problem, where you want the player to have a massive amount of agency, but also the player needs everything explained to them, so they also need to be the new guy who doesn't know anything. So it's like, you have no qualifications, but also you get to decide everything that happens.
Yeah, exactly. And like, I think it struggles because you, the player of Fire Emblem games, whatever, know where this is all going. Like, it doesn't, you know, It's such a weird like, it has so many weird moments. There's a cutscene with this is why I asked which house you were. So there's a character in the Black Eagle house, this young man, his whole thing is he always wants to fight and he always wants to do the right thing. And his issue is he will always step in, even when it'd be better not to. He gets involved. And there's a cutscene when you get your kind of, first level of your personal kind of like bond with him increases, which is intended to illustrate this. And it is, I think unintentionally, one of the darkest things I've ever seen in one of these games. So basically, the cutscene starts and you are watching a mysterious man. They're never particularly high budget, these cutscenes. It's like, vignettes, basically. And there's this armored dude standing in the castle and you don't know who he is. And this person, and your student comes up to you and says like, who's that? What are you doing? It's like, well, I'm watching this guy because we don't know who he is. He looks suspicious. And he's like, I'm going to go kick the shit out of him. And he's like, no. We will learn more if you wait and be patient. This is the relationship developing is he learns something from you and the rest of it. And then he goes, and then this armored figure walks off and he shouts, he's going directly to where the children play and chases after him. And then it fades to black. And then it fades back in, and your student is being reprimanded by an older knight who says, if you hadn't chased that guy, he wouldn't have killed himself.
Oh my God. Whoa.
It's like, I literally went, Jesus Christ.
That's a lot.
It was a lot. And he was like, yeah, but he was going for the children. Like, what the fuck? And it's like, yes, but we found that he had a gang tattoo, and now we'll never know who his compatriots are. You've endangered everyone in this castle.
That's a deeply complicated Fade to Black there.
Yeah, exactly. A lot took place in Fade to Black.
So yada, yada, yada. Anyway.
And then it like fades out and it's like, you're now at support rank C.
I love Fire Emblem.
I love Fire Emblem too, but like, it is all over.
That feels like someone was assigned the job of making that cutscene that showed all that stuff happening and they were like, nope.
What it feels like is like, that feels like a bit of a lost in translation. There's something there that wasn't, but yeah, for all of that, like the battle game itself is only just getting to the point where there's stuff to learn from. I think in terms of how this stuff, like what Fire Emblem's really good at is all the stuff you kind of wish happened in XCOM games where characters talk to each other and build relationships and stuff. And it's because it's pre-written and they are fixed characters and things. And there's a mad amount of them. And, there's so many different relationships you can build and cutscenes to unlock. And it's about unlocking the story. And there's this big visual novel dating game basically aspect to it. But there is one system. That all games like this, including the one you're making, Tom, have to adopt.
Rewind.
Rewind is good.
Already got Rewind.
We got Rewind.
Rewind.
This I was going to say, it's the equivalent, right? Into the Breach, gave us the rewind to that extent,
Or Invisible Ink.
Actually, you're right, Invisible Ink, right? That one's been done. Like, if each of these games contribute something to the genre. Fire Emblem is this, right? As the month progresses, sometimes, as the days go by, it will be someone's birthday. When it is their birthday, you have two options. You can either spend 200 gold pieces.
War?
No. You can spend 200 gold pieces to send them flowers, regardless of who they are. If you do this, their little avatar will pop up and they'll go, thank you. That is it. However, the other option, which you can do under circumstances otherwise, but it's free on their birthday, is invite them to tea. If you invite them to tea, you enter for some reason, first-person tea drinking simulation, where you are sat in a flowery kind of rose garden with them, and they sit there, and then the first thing you must do is pick which tea you will drink. And these are items that you've collected by going through the bins of the school, by running and doing quests. And you might try and, the first thing you will do is try and match the tea to the personality of the person. So like an Imperious tea for Imperial character, common.
What is an Imperious tea?
Well, it gives you a description, like this is a nutty tea, it's an acquired taste that nobles like, and you're
but
like.
In real life, would you say like Lapsang Souchong?
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah, or like, just a PG tips for the lowborn students among you. There's a whole class thing in the game.
There is, yeah.
Anyway, so you pick the tea. And then you enter the conversation phase of the tea experience, where you get 3 opportunities to pick subjects of communication, so subjects of conversation. And these are really quite cleverly written because they do map on to the things you should know about your students' personalities, but they're not really obvious. Like, just because someone likes, it might say that someone likes, the outdoors, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to like talking about the gardens of the school, but maybe that's the best option if the other two aren't great. The other options might be things like cute monks. They're always like two names. So it's like cute monks, weird fish I saw, gardens, war and loss. And like if you pick the right thing, you'll get feedback like the conversation got lively. And then you pick the next one. If you get any of them wrong, or you get a kind of, if you pick a topic of conversation that is incorrect, they go, and then at the end of this conversation sequence, regardless of how many others you get right, they'll go, had a nice time, see you later. However, if you get all three of them, like a nice, oh god, this is going well, great conversation, then you get a fourth chance to pick a new thing. In this case, it's an action, which would be something like laugh, or reprimand, or compliment. And then you got to kind of match this to the mood they're in. If you pull that off, a huge red certificate appears, which says in block caps, golden letters, perfect tea time. And this is the best game mechanic environment. If you achieve perfect tea time, then you get into overtime. And in tea time overtime, you have two options. You can give them as many gifts as you want. You can drain your entire inventory of presents.
Is there usually a cap on how many gifts you can give?
Well, usually it's like you give someone a gift and they go, thanks. You can normally do it, but in this case, you can just start dumping gifts on them. Like you're in bonus overtime supermarket sweep relationship building. Yeah. You can just like give them all the flowers you have and the things you found. People love owl feathers. Yeah, owl feathers are a universal gift. The other thing you can do is a weird one. It's called observe. And then you get a free cam and you just look at them, but like only from like the shoulders up. Like you just look at them.
What?
From a sort of a distance, you pan around them and then button prompts come up and it's like you can either nod, banter, or something else. I can't remember what the other one is. It might be laugh. And then when you do this, if you match the button prompts, they will tell you a joke.
What? This is like a secret system. I didn't even know this was possible.
You only unlock this with perfect tea time.
Never encountered perfect tea time.
You've got to learn more about your students, basically.
I see.
And then when you've succeeded at all this, you can, because in this case, you choose when tea time ends, because you've entered the extra time.
And they're your prisoner now.
Yeah, exactly.
Tea time is over when I say it's over.
You can sit there just pressing the banter button and listening to the same joke again and again, and then giving all the presents in your inventory away. And then when you're finished, you press end, and the person goes like, "This was the best tea time I've ever had," and your relationship with them goes up a huge amount.
Incredible.
And the whole thing is vastly unprofessional from you, a teacher.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
But is nonetheless completely incredible. And I desperately want, I think, BattleTech more than anything else to find a mechanism by which you can have a perfect tea time.
I would enjoy this in XCOM as well.
Yeah,
absolutely.
When you said this is a mechanic you absolutely must implement, I was hoping the summary of what this mechanic was would last to 10 to 30 seconds. It sounds somewhat involved.
No, Tom, I mean, this is the thing. There are no flaws in the implementation of this tea time system. And if this tea time, I just feel like, I don't know how you would improve it. It's, it applies some pressure on the writers to get characters where you're going to have an interesting challenge figuring out the right kind of tea. But, I think maybe that should be the test for all game writing. Like, if I can't figure out what kind of tea this character wants, is it really a good character?
And let's face it, ordinary tea time might be 10 seconds long in a video game.
No.
But perfect tea time
is infinite.
It's forever.
That's basically what I want to say about Fire Emblem Three Houses. I think that's explained it.
Yeah, I agree with you, Chris, that Awakening is my favourite one. Because in Awakening, in Three Houses, you assign battalions to your child, your child's charges. So, you give a 15-year-old like a knight battalion to lead in battle. And this kind of replaces the old system where people who have really good, strong bonds would defend each other in combat, which is like a really, really nice aspect of the 3DS.
I miss that, actually.
I really miss that as well. The battalion stuff's hilarious, though, because you do like a special, they're called gambits for some reason, but they're basically just, you tell your
battalion do thing. Yeah.
Yeah. But they can miss. Like, the entire battalion can miss. And,
to a man.
yeah, and the animation for that is hilarious. So opponents start doing this to you, about 5 or 6 hours into the game. And I've got like a guy on a horse. It's like the first time I've got a proper mounted unit. It's brilliant. And the horse dodge animations are just beautiful. They're so funny. The opponent, what they do is like, when you activate a gambit, the main character kind of like holds their sword up or something and yells, go charge. There's a brilliant sound of like, warriors charging forwards, and you see like dozens and dozens of them just like charging towards your guy. And then the horse hops about 1 meter sideways and a big message appears saying, missed!
As
and
like
the entire battalion
Naruto run in the wrong direction.
Yeah, just like straight past you into the woods and vanish. It's priceless. It's extremely good.
Yeah, it's version of people helping each other, which I think is really necessary for Fire Emblem. Like the bits where people would show up in each other's combats was part of the fun of it.
Yeah.
It's in this represented where if you do a gambit and your allies have gambits that are also in range, they all yell, basically.
Yeah.
Like they all show up at the beginning of the gambit to go like, yeah, ooh, fucking hell. And then the knights run away or something like that. Oh, it's very good.
It's very good. Fire Emblem is one of my favourite series.
Yeah, me too.
And, you're completely right, Chris. Loads of games should just rip entire mechanics out of that game and make it real. Like XCOM in particular.
Yeah, I mean, they've delayed Phoenix Point till December, and I can only guess it's because Fire Emblem came out and they're like, fuck.
No tea time.
No tea time. There's no perfect tea time. Is there such a thing as a perfect tea time? The answer is yes. Who else been playing what?
Fucking Alex mentioned Assassin's Creed Odyssey on the last pod that I was on anyway, and that has caused me to relapse. So I've been playing an insane amount of that. I think I stopped when I was like, I wanted to kill all the cultists, and that cultist web thing, I fucking love it. And it's like, feels like the final piece of like, how to make the most of an open world game is just like, give me a big web of people I gotta kill, and I can click on one of them and you just mark them on the map, and I can just see 5,000 meters away on some mountain is some fucking dude, and I'm just gonna go there. And I will even like sometimes avoid fast travel to do this, because it's just I get so like, excited about just the fantasy of just like, I know where the fucking guy is, and I'm just gonna cross like land and sea to get to them.
Like the Lancelot bit in Monty Python and the Holy Grail, where he's just running across that field forever.
Yeah.
And I think I stalled on it a bit when I had done all the ones I could do, and the rest of them were like, either continue Odyssey to find out more about this cultist, or, this guy's just fucking level 45 and I am level 20. And so that's just not going to happen. I gave it a good shot. I think I talked about this last time I talked about Odyssey, where like I brought my ship into port near the 45 guy and tried to like shoot him with all of my archers and all of my javelins from a boat. It doesn't work. The real answer to how to kill a level 45 guy is be level 47 and come back and like, hi again. I'm now 18 times more powerful than I was last time. And I can kill you in one hit.
That's kind of my big problem with the game almost though. Like that's
I wish
sticking point.
It has enough in it. It has enough flexibility in your equipment and the perks you can get and the abilities you can get, and planning and a bunch of other stuff, where enough stuff supports the possibility of you coming up with a way to kill this guy who's higher level than you. And it would have happened if I had tried again at level 42 or 40 even. I think then all of my scheming and planning, combining of all of my advantages and changing all of my kit, respecking everything I have to just for this one attack, probably could have done it. But it was just, it's a fucking vast world. And so when I was, last time I was here, I was probably like level 30. By the time I was level 42, I was on the other side of Greece and doing something else. And by the time I got back, I was suddenly level 47. And I'm like, oh, I can just take you now. I can just do it. And I still did. So this is like what I love about the game, and I will just invest in it more than I need to. And so I will always, I go for the assassin tree. It will surprise nobody to know. I mean skill tree, not like there isn't like a physical tree. That would help, but I mean, it would have to be in the right place, obviously.
It's made of knives and bastards.
How did it get up on top of me?
There's a whole bunch of shit. Like it's good. I think it's a really good level up system in that that whatever way you want to specialize your character, there's so much to invest in. You can just keep on pumping points and you're still getting interesting extra stuff. So there's like, oh, I want all my assassination attacks to do more damage. Also, all of your equipment can enhance that, but then there's a skill that does that. And then separately from that, there's another skill that is like a special assassination that costs adrenaline, and it does 3 times as much damage, or I think it does twice as much damage, but then you can upgrade it to do 3 times as much and upgrade it to do 5 times as much, and keep sinking points into that. And then separately from that, like what a really high level assassin ability is just like, you're better at night. Like at night, all your assassin stuff does more damage, and also your sneaking is better and all this other stuff. And that's just an extra bonus that stacks on top of all that other stuff. And of course, I've got that you can invest in that like 3 times. And so now like the ritual is I'm usually wearing all my assassin gear anyway that boosts my assassin damage, and then find the person and then meditate until nighttime, because I do just a little bit more damage at night, and then just like stalk them, figure out where they're alone, run up to them, do the special assassination attack that costs me mana and takes a while to execute, and takes off most of their health. And then after I've assassinated them once and they've realized I'm there, like, hey, wait a minute, I'm being assassinated quite a lot right now. Could this be an assailant? Ah, yes. From then, you can't do like a normal assassination attack, but there's still the hero strike, which is the ability that's like an attack you can use in combat, but it's like 60% of your assassin damage, which doesn't sound like a lot, but my assassin damage is 120,000 hit points. So it's like, yeah, that's still a lot.
Yeah.
And I actually I didn't have it at the time, but I've just now got like a special perk that gives my hero strike 20% extra damage. So it's crazy now. So basically there's a ritual, and these are my favorite moments in the game. That one, the level 45 guy, was maybe a little bit anticlimactic because, well, he was such a nemesis by that point. I tried to fight him like at several other points in the game, and so coming back to it, even though it wasn't mechanically that challenging, it was still kind of cool. I still waited out till night and found him alone on his ship, and I think I took out every other guard in the area, like silently. I think I even recruited them because I didn't want to kill them. Like my beef was not with them. It's just this one guy. Yeah. And recruiting's amazing. And then finally took him out. But then other times, all of my favorite moments really have been like, oh, I've got to kill this cultist, and they're thousands of they're kilometers away, and you ride out there, or you realize like, oh, it'd actually be better if I got my ship and sailed to this cliff and came at it from that angle, so then I don't have to cross all this land. And realizing like, once you get close, you realize they're on this like cliff top temple, and there's this huge fort leading up to them, but if I scale the cliffs from the sea, I can just get straight to them. And there's all this, like, the more defenses there are that I don't have to engage with in any way, the more I enjoy doing this. And just getting them, alone at night. They're usually asleep, which is great. Yeah. And yeah, like I say, like planning it out, waiting till nightfall, scaling a cliff. And it's a combination of like, it's mechanically interesting, like, approach a situation from any angle you like, and the resistance you encounter is just what you realistically would. It's simulated rather than a game, rather than a cutscene and a series of boss fights or whatever. I love that. Obviously I love just the fact that it was my choice to go out and do this right now. Like I just decided I was going to cross all of Greece to find this person. And then actually doing it there's this kind of ritual to it, and waiting for nightfall is cool. And then, yeah, a bunch of stealth mechanics, and just like the basic business of assassinating somebody is pretty cool and feels good. The only slight complaint I have is with the cultists, you can't kick them off a cliff. There's a special rule about them because like they're going to have something really important on their body, so they don't want you to just like rocket them into space, which you can more or less do with anyone else. And so there was one guy where I was really like, oh man, this is such a good cliff. Don't tempt me with a cliff like this if I can't kick them off it. But you really can't. There's an invisible wall at the thing. Almost everyone else you can.
There are a few you can. There are a few mission critical people you can kick off a cliff. You just have to go down and finish them off. That's the problem.
All right. Yeah, this guy just literally wouldn't. It was just an invisible wall. But I could, like, the same cliff, I kicked someone else off. Like, there was a sergeant there and I could just kick him off it.
Right.
Yeah, which is a shame. I'm level 56 now. I've played a lot, and the level up system, I kind of like it more and more the more I play, and I've just got to the point now where I have enough total ability points that I can basically dual class between assassin and warrior. Hunter, I have like some skills, but I don't need to like, there was a time when I was respecking. Like if I wanted to do an arena fight, respecking is really cheap, so I could just take all my ability points out and put them all into warrior stuff and re-equip all my things. Back then the game didn't have loadouts either, so I had to manually find all 8 pieces of armor that had the best warrior bonuses and put them all on and then take them all off afterwards, which is a huge pain in the ass.
Like
now,
Destiny.
thank God it has a loadout system where you set up, my loadout 2 is all my warrior stuff. It's still dumb that you have to switch it like that. Like you just have to, because every piece of armor can have a warrior bonus or an assassin bonus, and it's huge, and it affects all of the assassin stuff you do, or all of the warrior stuff you do. So, and the difficulty spikes are boss fights. So for those, you just need maximum warrior damage. So you basically have to switch all your equipment out, which I think is a flaw of the system. But yeah, I've also started to like recruit people more, and rather than killing them if they're not like an actual target. I was sneaking up to a camp, and there was a guy, I think I like whistled to lure him into a bush, and then I hit the knockout button, which is, you can't really do this to like bosses or anyone who's like above your level, because it's only does, the amount of knockout damage you do is I think just your normal default assassination damage, which is, if you're taking out a proper target, you need to do the special assassination that does 5 times as much damage. But this guy, I did have, I could take him out with the knockout attack, stealth attack, and I did, but he was carrying a torch, and so he fell into the bush I was hiding in, and the next thing, after you knock them out, you then press this button to recruit them. And I was just trying to do that, but his torch fell into the bush, set fire to the bush set fire to him, which woke him up. And then he jumps up on fire, I jump up on fire, and his friend suddenly sees this. Just
then
sees
you hug,
people.
and then you recruit them
I
immediately.
was just about to hire him, and I'm like, fuck, I just gotta stab him, because I can't, there's no non-lethal way out of this. We're both on fire, I'm on fire, you're on fire, your friend's seeing me, I've just gotta stab you. I'm sorry, man. I wanted to hire you, it's not gonna work out. Like, I'll let you know, but...
Worst interview ever.
It's such a absurd conceit. It sounds like in general, it sounds like Fire Emblem is a lot less worried about gamey stuff than Assassin's Creed is, but this is one area where Assassin's Creed was like, fuck it. It's for game reasons, you need to be able to hire these people, and so anyone, you can just knock them out, and then you wake them up again, and I'm fascinated by all the mechanics of this, because you knock them out, then there's another button to recruit them, which means waking them up from being unconscious, and then Cassandra has a line about, like, come with me and you'll earn more drachmae than you've ever had. But when you knock them out, you automatically loot them and take all of their drachmae. So you, like, rob them and then say, if you come with me, you'll get a lot of money. I happen to know you're on hard financial times right now. And then the worst of it all is they don't actually get hired by you doing that. You sort of say you're hiring them and say, go meet Barnabas at the port. He'll be expecting you. But then you haven't actually hired them, because you have to go into the menu and then pay them some money to like bring them on board. And
the money they just nick from them, basically.
Yeah, and I recruit people basically to get rid of the body. Like, if you kill someone, there's this body you got to do something about. If you recruit them, they just leave, so there's no body. And so I've recruited 500 people, and I can't afford to hire that many people, so they're just sitting in this roster, like unpaid, waiting for this money.
Condemned them to the UI.
Yeah.
They're all interns, unpaid interns.
Yes, a huge staff of unpaid interns.
One thing I will say about Fire Emblem, actually, you just reminded me of, is if you do lose a student, no one comments on it after the fact. Like, so I had someone called Ingrid, and she was on track to become...
She's one of the only tolerable Blue Lion people, as far as I can tell.
She's great, yeah, and she was on track to become like a Pegasus Knight, and that's what she really wanted to do. She came up to me in the previous week and was like, I really want to be a Pegasus Knight, I want to retrain. I was like, yeah, great. But then she got twatted by a bandit with a big axe and died. And I was like, okay, that sucks. But I kind of want to see how this sort of plays out, like how much the game is really going to deal with this.
You got a student killed, Professor.
Yeah.
We don't care.
15-year-old student. No one said anything about it. Like, there's literally no lines of dialogue, nothing. Ingrid is just like erased from history now. She's just not, it's like she never was part of Hogwarts, murder Hogwarts.
Exactly. The Pope just hands you some weed and is just like, don't worry about it. We're pretty chill here.
They'll all forget, don't worry. Yeah. That's just how it goes. Poor Ingrid.
That's kind of disappointing, because that is the promise of that system.
That's right. Yeah, it is disappointing. Like, it's a real flaw, I think. Because they've done so much to support those relationships and like create these characters, and then with this kind of danger of that you'd lose them. And then when you do lose them, there's nothing, like, in terms of writing or anything else to support it. Like, you've got to have
probably
both.
get fired, to be honest.
You should probably get in jail for the entire situation. It's a flaw.
This is one reason that I'm not going to go down this road with our game is, like, I thought about letting you lose characters and stuff, but it's, if I was a developer, and I am, if I was a developer on that game, and somebody was saying, like, I lost this character, there should be a load of dialogue about this, I would be asking, but how many people are really going to lose that character and then carry on with the game? Aren't they always going to load an old save game or rewind or find some way out of it? These dark paths of, like, a major permanent loss that has long running ramifications. So few players are willing to accept that and carry on with it and interested in what happens there.
Yeah.
It's not really worth putting your development time into it.
Though I'd say, like, almost like Wing Commander 3 did this better, where you lose characters to the Wing Commander 3 campaign, and when that happens, you get a funeral scene. And they're fired out into space and everyone salutes and there's a little speech, and that's all it needs. It doesn't need to be, like, personalized to the particular character or anything, just some sort of recognition that there's been a loss.
Yeah, it could even be, like, a scene for that particular character, because they do plenty of character-specific scenes.
Yeah.
And then it should track how many students you've lost. And that should affect some global thing, right? Like,
right.
You know what I mean? It's like,
the duration of tea time.
Blue Lion, the duration, it might be increasingly difficult to achieve a perfect tea time. When Blue Lion House is down to one person because the rest of them have died.
It should probably be slightly harder to rank up your professor rank once you...
Fishing isn't going to cut it anymore.
One of your kids has been murdered by a bandit with an axe.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, to be honest, it calls into question the entire purpose of the school.
I don't understand what the school is for. I still don't. I've spent 10 hours. I don't. I mean, I accept it because it's a very good game, but,
Do you like that no one is bothered that a man in an iron mask dressed like death keeps materializing in the school? People talk about it, but it's not like a crisis.
No, it's just like, that's fine.
The thing is, so not to go back to Fire Emblem too much, like, I think I genuinely, because of a few things, including, as you drew attention to, the lack of that, I don't think the battalion system is as good as the kind of assist system from Awakening.
Yeah,
I don't think the way the relationships play into the game is as good as Awakening either. Like, I genuinely think that if you are interested in a Fire Emblem game, you should play Awakening.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think Three Houses is the way in. Like, people are really enjoying it. I think it's got loads to recommend it, and I find it really entertaining, but I'm actually not sure it's an amazing game.
Yeah.
What platform was Awakening on?
3DS.
Yeah.
Also, Awakening is a much better looking game. I actually find Three Houses to be very ugly in terms of the
I
colour
thought
palette.
that from the first trailer when it was revealed. I thought this looked real drab.
Yeah, it's real drab, and that's not what Fire Emblem tends to be like before. Like, Awakening is beautiful, it's really colourful, and they do a lot with their limited polygons to, really nail the fancy of the characters, and on dragons and Pegasus and things like that. The animations are great. Whereas this one, I think they've sacrificed a lot to do the battalion stuff and have dozens of people on the screen. But I have problems with the overall art direction. It's incredibly murky, which is a real
particularly
shame.
the environments.
Yeah, the environments.
Characters are quite kind of vibrant and well drawn.
Yeah, that's true. So, for example, War Hogwarts is like a pretty ugly place when you're actually wandering around
It's
it.
also fucking massive.
It's massive,
in that MMO way, like where doors are 18 times too big.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, so, I mean, I appreciate, like, I'm having a lot of fun with it, but partly because it has that sort of just, box ticking sort of satisfaction of managing these relationships and things.
Yeah.
I don't think it's as good a game as Awakening.
No, definitely not. I've really enjoyed it as playing it in portable mode actually while there's some telly on. So I've had Series 3 The Expanse on and sort of like been doing bits of Fire Emblem in boring scenes where, that's a good way to play it.
Yeah. Totally.
Should we do some questions?
Yes. Before we do though, I wanted to say something I forgot to say earlier. I just realised this.
And another thing about tea time.
No, not about tea time, but booze time, because you were just pouring some bourbon, and that reminded me of when I visited the Jack Daniel's distillery in Lynchburg many years ago.
Oh yeah.
But so over the weekend, I went to the Guinness Storehouse experience in Dublin, and I've previously been to the Coca-Cola Museum in Atlanta, and I just want to make this point, and I think I'd be interested to know if anyone else has this experience. The only things you can do on Earth
that are as similar as you can get to a BioWare style immersive sim are Beverage specific museums, because they have the same combination of extremely strong theme, slightly weird ideology, because the ideology is usually most human emotions emerge from this drink. And also exactly the same environmental storytelling methods, which they really
Scored
do.
in blood on the wall. Guinness was made in 1860.
Joking, but basically, like, you walk into a room in the Guinness experience, which is a weird thing. Like, the good experiences like this, the good brewery tours and things tend to show you how the thing is made.
Yeah.
The bad ones, like I would argue the Guinness one and the Coke one, which is its own fucking hellscape, are more about like, it's a brand experience, so it's like a beautiful demonstration, but without any kind of real sense of what's actually going on. There's literally a room in the Guinness experience, which is extraordinary, because you walk in and there are, like 20, identical and synced sort of portrait orientation monitors dotted around the room. And each of them, is a life-size person talking directly to you about some aspect of the life of Arthur Guinness, the founder of the Guinness dynasty. And the first one is just, and it's this bizarre, it's basically like an audio diary in real life. Like, it's a person the first one is like not undateable in that way. I mean, like, you couldn't, timeless, like, you wouldn't be able to place it in time. Like, Irish bartender telling you this story, and then the next one is an Irish doctor, and then the next one apparently is some kind of like coachman or executioner kind of shouting at you from time, and all of them speak extremely slowly and only with enough of an Irish accent that you recognize that it's an Irish accent, but not enough to alienate anyone who might be watching this. So it's like rendered accessible in this bizarre kind of out of world way, and you stop and you just listen to the story for a bit, and then you continue through this tour into how barley is roasted. And the whole thing is functionally exactly the same energy as picking up an audio diary and having to stop at a level load point to listen to it in case there's a splicer around the corner. It's really weird. I just wanted to talk about that because I think there's a lot of level design going into these places that could be going into Deus Ex. Basically.
My main, this is a bit of a tangent, but like my primary Guinness memory is former production editor and PC Gamer superhero Tony Ellis. We were in a place called the Porter, which is long since.
Oh, I missed the Porter.
Yeah, same. And I went and got a round of drinks, just not knowing what to get him, just got him a Guinness, and he drank it, and that was fine. But days later, like when we were back in the pub, I might have to bleep this out, but he said, "You got me a Guinness, you." Like that. I was
sounds like Tony.
And I love that man. He's one of my favourite people.
Did he offer any reasoning?
It was just a sort of deep moral offence, and I immediately felt, I knew I'd done wrong. I just immediately knew. I was like, yeah, shit, I shouldn't have got you a real beer. 3%.
I drank quite a lot of Guinness this weekend when I was in Ireland. And it was good. I had a nice time.
Yeah.
I had a very nice time. Anyway, I just wanted to make that point because I do feel like, the Coca-Cola Museum is its own whole thing. They make you watch a video before you go in about how almost all good human emotions stem from Coca-Cola.
Oh, good.
It ends in a tasting room where they have every single Coke beverage from around the planet. And I managed to find the only tap in that room that would do normal water. And Pip was so happy she cried. I don't know why I have so many kind of beverage museum horror stories, but
Yeah,
they do like weird artisanal Cokes now, right? There's like sort of like special brews where it's like
of course
weird
they do.
flavors.
Yeah. Yeah, they have a whole museum dedicated to that one advert with the horses in it, by the way, at the Guinness thing.
Do they?
Yeah, they
Of course
do.
they do.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
There's a super clumsy Coke product placement in the new Stranger Things season as well. Like, there's a whole, it's really like overly long segment on how new Coke
Would you believe it? You are the second person to tell me about that today.
It's bad.
Is it as bad as the Kevin Spacey House of Cards PlayStation Vita?
Oh, is it?
Oh, yeah.
He plays Monument Valley in that series.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, the Monument Valley.
There are actually like whole bits where he just picks up a feature. It's like, I really enjoy this console. And I really enjoy the entertainment experience, so I get out of it. This ruthless, fucking murderous.
It's perfect for a murderous presidential candidate on the fly.
I've got a lot of people that are
Questionable
68.
I'm a murder president on the go.
But honestly,
I need my fix.
I can absolutely
Play
believe
Fire Emblem on this.
I can believe that endorsement carries exactly the same amount of value as endorsement from like a properly morally good character. Like audiences
sure.
do not
You're talking about Kevin
distinguish.
Spacey or the character?
Well, yeah, either way.
Yeah.
Audiences just fucking root for whoever you put on screen the most. Like whoever's, they have a lot of screen time, I'm fucking on their side. Great.
Yeah, this
He's
is
a
always
good
the
guy.
problem with Frank in brilliant Paul Abbott series that then went bad. I can't remember the name of it. That's good podcasting, isn't it?
Boo, 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 da, 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 da. Gonna sing until, okay.
I'm not going to remember it. I'm not going to remember it. We can just cut that. That's fine. Shameless.
Was Paul Abbott
Shameless.
stuff?
Shameless.
What was the point about Seamus?
Oh, just Frank is the main character in that, and he's like a total shit. Like the idea of that character is not that he's any sort of aspirational fantasy at all. Like he's a disaster zone the real heroes of the show are the kids that pick up his slack. In his absence and his alcoholism. And yet, actually, as the show evolved, when Abbott left, Frank became like a folk hero, whereas, and therefore undermined the entire point of the show and what it was trying to say about the family dynamics. Yeah.
And Breaking Bad.
Breaking Bad's
Yep,
perfect
Breaking
example
Bad.
of this. I was talking to a
Yep.
friend today about the very specific aesthetic, which is basically the HMV bargain bin t-shirts, posters kind of thing, which is mostly like, it changes era by era, but it's always exactly the same vibe. Like it evolved from like Why So Serious t-shirts through to like Heisenberg kind of logo tees.
Right, yeah.
I think it's recently passed through the tie-dye Suicide Squad t-shirt thing. It's got a weird relationship with the DC universe, I think. And now I don't know what it's on now, but like there's a sort of like edgy anti-hero bad t-shirt kind of vibe.
Yeah. I like seeing people with Heisenberg t-shirts and like, oh, I'm a point misser.
Yeah. I did not understand them.
Yeah.
A piece of culture I watched.
Sometime the drug man cool though. Nice hat. Should we do some questions before I move on? The first question comes from Philippa War, who writes, "Hello, I have a question for Chris. Can you ask him what happened to the Magnums, which he said were in the freezer and now seem to be all gone? Love the podcast. Pip." I ate them. And I have already actually pre-apologized to Pip for this because I saw that we had this question. I went downstairs and said sorry. I ate them. It's been very hot.
How many did you eat?
Yeah, I was
In what space of time?
I ate all 4, but over the course of 4 days.
Okay.
I don't think that's unreasonable.
It was the heat wave as well.
It was during a heat wave.
That's at the upper end of reasonable.
I bought the Magnums and I ate 1 Magnum a day for 4 days. And if I feel like if Pip had wanted a Magnum in that period, there would have been a Magnum. You know, she's entered the 5th day, right? Like,
Snooze, you lose.
you do.
That's how it goes.
Yeah. There's other ice cream in the freezer. Next question comes from, Thomas, who writes, "Dear Hemaglutinate Handlebar, after having played some of the Final Fantasy remakes on Steam, I've been kind of intrigued by the steps they've added to make them playable by adding speed up functions and straight up god modes, etc. My question is, what do you add to present day games to make them more playable? I personally think the gunpoint save system would improve a lot of games. Cheers, Thomas." Well, of course, the obvious answer here is perfect Teatime.
Of course.
I mean, we talked about applying it to all squad management games, but really all games, I think, to be honest.
I would say, RPG party automation with the degree of control that you have in Final Fantasy 12, where you don't have to micro every single thing that your parties are doing in a CRPG like Pillars of Eternity. They just get on with it, and
Pillars has that system, doesn't it?
yeah, it does actually, to an extent, but you want them to execute it intelligently to the extent that you could just sort of
Not do
watch
it.
them do it.
Yeah. It's amazing how many systems boil down to, can I just not do this?
Can I just like sort of watch what I've enjoyed about like auto battle is recently is just watching a little party I've made just go off and make their own bad decisions in a given encounter.
That's on you.
So it's like when I see in Dota Underlords, Kunkka throws his giant kind of water ghost ship at a lone individual in the corner when it's a massive splash damage attack that would have been much better deployed on the other side of the arena. Like that's part of the fun for me of,
You should try regular Dota, where strangers will do this all the time, and you won't know why, and you'll feel compelled to yell at them.
yeah. I enjoy that, and I enjoy the lack of yelling as well. That's also good.
I would love it if when you play Deus Ex 1 and you go through a level transition and it says the word saving on screen before it says the word loading. I wish it was actually saving. Because it's not. Like, it doesn't ever, like, Deus Ex never autosaves, ever. You can play the entire game, and if you died 1 minute before the end, you would lose 100% of your progress. It never autosaves. But it says on screen that it is.
Yeah, that's bad news.
Which is the ultimate dick move. I can't believe I'm a fan of that game.
Can you imagine? You heard it here. Can you imagine if the disclaimer at the start of the game was like, when you see this icon on screen, please feel free to turn
Nothing's
your console
happening.
off. Nothing's happening.
Your hard disk
bullshit.
is fine. You can just yank the power cord out.
I'm trying to think. I think speed up things are a great idea. I'm trying to think what would benefit lots of modern games specifically. I think this is the thing. I was going to say XP boosts, basically, just sort of skipping to the next, being able to skip to the next unlock or shorten those distances. But them things get sold.
Yeah.
You want that, you can pay for it.
Yep, I bought that for Odyssey. That's
Yeah,
what made
me
it
too.
palatable to me.
And you didn't, right,
I
Chris?
didn't, no.
So, what level are you in Odyssey? Do you remember?
50 something, 60
Okay, so
something.
similar to me. We should compare playtime at some point. I don't know what mine is, but
Yeah, I haven't played it in ages, but
it'd be
yeah.
interesting to know if it's drastically different. Because it just feels normal to me. It doesn't feel like it's a super fast leveling curve or anything. It just feels like it happens at a normal
It's
rate.
like the correct leveling curve.
It'd be amazing
for the game.
if I also felt like it was fine. And if our playtime is about the same, then that's a scam.
Yeah, for sure. That's interesting, yeah.
Yeah, interesting. We can check that after the pod. Next question comes from Colthor, who writes, Dear Rate My Croc Gar, every few weeks a developer issues a press release explaining how it's about to fail to make its community pleasant, and recently the ADL published a survey showing that 74% of online gamers have been harassed. So why not just not have in-game communication? Grimlock spare you, Colthor.
I think obviously it depends on the kind of game you're making, and you know, games that have it have their reasons. But I will say I love games that have limited communication, like Journey and
Yeah.
I'm sure I've talked about this podcast like many years ago, but there's a game called Way by Chris Bell is the lead designer. And it's a split screen co-op platformer where you're both playing on the same screen, but you can only communicate by moving your character's arms. And one of it's split screen so you can see what the other person's world and what they're dealing with and everything, but you're not looking at the same screen in real life that you're playing online or LAN or whatever. And if you're like the red player, you can see red platforms and the blue player can't. And so sometimes there'll be like a red platform that's like mashing down onto the floor every 3 seconds, and you have to tell them when to go, but you can only do it through movements of your arms. And so it's great because it strips out all the possible negative communication. There's nothing you can do with your arms that's really offensive. Like, you could try, if you know semaphore really well, and so do they, maybe you could be like, you are a but I don't know semaphore, so I'm safe.
I don't think that's in Semaphore.
I wonder if that is.
You
Yeah,
wouldn't need to tell that to a plane. You know what I mean? There's no...
Coming into land.
Control tower, we have a problem. Mixed
or
messages
you
from
have a
the
problem.
Can't you like just spell any letter with semaphore or something? I
think you can, yeah.
Like I say, I don't know semaphore. This is why I'm immune to this tactic. Which I understand is rampant in the Way community. But it's great because you're honestly trying to communicate with them. You're trying to give them the information, and it's time sensitive. And so like the lag in you figuring out what you want to say and how you want to say it, and then the lag in them understanding it and them acting on it is significant. And if they die, you just feel so bad. Like, even when you kind of feel like you did your best to communicate as fast as possible, there's always like some aspect of like, oh fuck, I could have done that faster. And yeah, limited communication really lends itself. I think that if you had to type that stuff, I don't know, you'd always be pissed off at the system somehow. You'd always be like they didn't understand, or I did what I could, or whatever. And because it abstracts it into this gestural thing, I don't know, somehow it made me feel like it was always my fault. Which is good.
I think
I love everything.
I think, yeah, I mean, obviously the problems with open chat and free text chat and stuff is extremely well documented. Kind of goes without saying. I think, and obviously removing it solves that problem, but I do think, you know, what you're gesturing at Tom, if I may, is that like there's quite a lot of design space in limiting communication between players and asking them to communicate. Communication's a fun challenge, and there's like a lot of game design there that can both solve problems with abuse, but also just create opportunities for things to be fun or silly or interesting.
I'm interested in your perspective as a Dota 2 player, Chris, particularly because did you ever go into pub games or did you
lots? Yeah, I played a shitload.
So how did that work out in terms of like communication?
I got really thick skin for a long time, and then I remember going into other games where people weren't like that and being like, taken aback. Like I remember, the perfect example of that is going from. Because, I mean, Destiny would be the example. My most intense Dota 2 years are definitely behind me, but they did overlap with Destiny in a big way. And Destiny, even though it was voice chat with strangers doing kind of tricky co-op things where everyone's dependent on each other, which, like, I would always put the source of a lot of that grief down to players being made to be dependent on one another. In Dota, you can't win by yourself. People think they can, but they just can't.
Yeah.
And a Destiny raid is similar. You're not against other players, but similarly, if one person fucks up, it can often fuck up the boss fight for everybody else. Yeah. And people were so lovely versus Dota where they were such assholes all of the time, unrelentingly. And, like, I don't know, like, I got a lot of mileage in the Dota column I used to write out of that phenomenon. Like, it was almost like weather. Like, I loved the game enough that I would just accept it. That this was the price of doing business. It's like, if I want to play this game I love, I have to accept the fact that almost everyone who plays it who's a stranger is the most abusive voice you've heard on the internet, which is a strange thing to accept, but you just do. But I totally understand why it's completely off-putting to people. You just sort of learn to weather it, I guess.
Yeah, I'm terrible at doing that. So for me, if I get like an interaction with a stranger over comms, it's either extremely positive or extremely negative. There's a kind of middle ground. So for Destiny stuff, we had some wonderful people just chirp at us through raids and through very complicated encounters. They're really patient, really nice and sort of like jovial and just chilled. And like that's the best. I think it's just like people a bit more mature, like a bit older. I think that's the Destiny audience, really.
Yeah. Is that like, do you think that derives from the game design? Is it because like Dota, it's just a competition. You're just this match, you're just trying to win, and that's all that matters. And Destiny feels like it's a longer arc, right? You're kind of like,
it's cooperative.
You might, even if you don't achieve what you wanted to achieve in this session, maybe you still level up to some extent, or you get something you wanted.
It's weird with Destiny because like there are definitely people who are very not competitive. That's almost the wrong way. They want to do things as efficiently as possible, and they want to do a raid run in
the minimum amount of time, yeah.
And they want everyone to have the right equipment and everyone to have the right, to know the encounters and just so they can grind the loot. But there's actually a subsurface, like below that, there's a genuine, helpful community in Destiny that is, very keen to help out new players who are quite evangelical about the game, who want people to kind of come in and make the game cool. And that's a real nice positive force in Destiny. And I've not really experienced that. I think you get that in WoW. I think you get that in some other kind of MMOs, but I don't experience that very often.
There's a little, clan or group of, elderly Journey players who just play. So Journey is a game where, it's on PC now, so I can talk about it.
Yeah.
We talked a lot about Fire Emblem, Tom. That Rubicon's been crossed.
It's a game that you're traveling across a desert. It's non-violent and you're solving puzzles and stuff. And at some point there'll be another traveler like you who appears, and almost unbeknownst to you, it's being controlled by another player. Like nothing in the game tells you that is happening. It's only at the very end of the game it tells you, oh, you were playing with player X and player Y and player Z. And it's wordless. There's no way to talk to them. There's no voice comms. All you can do is sort of emit like a pulse kind of thing. But there's a bunch of people who play Journey who've already know the game inside out, who just sort of do it to kind of Sherpa other players and just like lead them through it and show them how to do things in the very limited way that they can communicate at all. And apparently they're sort of like 60 to 70 year old players, which is really cute.
So nice. That is awesome.
Talking about I remember, I think one thing was a lot of the time, I think it's a balance of game communities and cultures and things, but a lot of the time, one of the reasons that the Dota abuse was not easy to ignore, but easy to kind of sideline is it was often super simple and super vicious. You know, it would just be in whatever language or you were being screamed at, it would just be like, you fucking suck, you know, like really kind of aggressively.
Yeah.
And it's a couple of clicks to be in the menu and muting them straight away. And you just get used to it. I remember really vividly, like literally the only time in thousands of hours of that game that I was actually set off by someone. And I think generally speaking, I'm a person who's quite hard to make angry. And it was because it was someone who was like, it was funny. They were talking down to one of the friends that I was playing with really patronizingly. They were also British. They were also, you know, they sounded about the same age as me. Like, it was funny. They were close enough to me.
Interesting. Yeah.
That like, rather than the sort of like what I would describe as like, and obviously you play with people of all nationalities, but there's like a common sort of like, you know, howling internet rage kind of status. This person was just, I thought, just being a dickhead.
Yeah.
And so I started to push back, like it set off whatever part of me wanted to like argue the point and dig in and make a fight out of it, not mute them because I actually kind of wanted the fight.
Yeah, right.
And so it brought out the slightly hostile part of myself. And, that actually ended up, you know, upsetting a friend that I was playing with and I ended up really regretting it because it was like because I ended up, you know, and a few other friends joined in, it became an argument. You know what I mean? And that was really, I really regret it, but I kind of now recognize that like what drew it out of me was the sort of the similarity, not the difference. Like that abuse was almost easier to ignore when it was just this person is just screaming at me and calling me every name under the sun. I'll just ignore it. Whereas someone being, and I think it was the fact that they were also being mean to a friend and, you know, it was like, it was like it was sort of close enough to my own experience that it was like, you are falling short of the standard that I hold myself to. So I'm going to like weigh in now. It was a really weird kind of set of like, I guess sort of impulses and prejudices of my own that made me unable to kind of switch that off and maybe engage and get angry, which I don't tend to do. It's really interesting. Like,
do you mind if I ask like why it upset your friend?
It was just, it was the old sort of backseat Dota thing, which is the principle of sort of very slowly and patronizingly explaining why someone else is bad. There's lots of different forms of Dota abuse. Like sometimes it's you fucking suck. Like you fucking suck is way easier to just disconnect from.
Sure.
It's when someone is like, well, what you need to be doing is this, and what you don't understand is this, and this build is bad because of this. And you're like,
and they're wrong.
And when they're wrong, when they're wrong,
it's the bell end curve. All of
it is. But you can't like. I think almost the test of your ability to withstand internet arguments and emerge from the internet with your soul intact is your ability to see someone else be wrong and just let it go.
Yeah.
Rather than go like, oh, you're wrong. You're wrong. Like wherever I buried my ire, it's rising. Like, you know what I mean? And now I'm getting involved. And
you can use this as a strategy if you need to know some information that people are usually unwilling to sort of spend their effort and time imparting. Just state the wrong version of it. If you're like, which code editor should I use? Just like come out and say, I should use Microsoft Word for code editing. And millions of people will jump in with like, no, it should be Visual Studio Express 19, like 20.
How to get free consultancy on any subject. Just
say the wrong thing.
Be wrong in front of the men
right.
of the internet.
That's excellent advice.
Yeah, that's actually really good advice. Holy shit, that's maybe how we make this all worth it. The problem is, though, that the things you're going to get told are also going to be wrong.
Yeah, what you need is imagine, if you will, a discipline where the people who know the most and are really smart about it are also kind of assholes. I present to you programming.
To be fair, there is a lot of academia that could be folded within this.
Yeah, absolutely.
As well. It's almost like knowing a lot about a subject can also render you somewhat of an asshole about it.
Yeah. And I think it's also like there's programming is probably like, there's just a disconnect between talent and personality. Like the being
interesting.
being a good being a good person doesn't help you with programming, which doesn't mean everyone who's good at programming is a bad person. It just means there's no reason to
relevant.
believe.
Yeah.
Being super smart and incredible at programming you can't jump from that to like, oh, they must be a decent person. No. They might be, but they might not be.
I mean, it's
How
probably
many
like
disciplines, where is that true though? It's not like, well, this person is the best cellist in the world.
that's what I was about to say. It's a logical fallacy for all professions, surely.
But yeah, it is. It's never necessarily true. I would maybe like, I don't know, is it maybe true that to be like a great author, you have to have some level of empathy with humans and understand how people think and stuff, which is not true of programming.
But apparently not. Given
But apparently not. That's
the
the thing. Like, I think it's interesting. Like, you'd argue that, well, game design would be a perfect example of this because it's so much about how people react to things. It's about, empathy. It's about understanding other people's behavior. It doesn't mean that you can't, be, aggressive or, obnoxious with your game design decisions. That, you know what I mean? It's perfectly possible. I think it's more that the practicing of that craft interacts with interpersonal skills in a particular way. It doesn't mean that those interactions have to be pleasant.
I think like maybe one of the negative relationships that exists in the game industry is that, people who are brilliant programmers, often end up getting a lot of power. There are a lot of people in really high positions at major game companies who got there because they founded the company and they made the games. They made them happen. They had that. It takes an extraordinary amount of skill, like skills I will never have in my life to sort of like create some of the things these people created. But they have no people skills.
Yeah.
And now they're in charge of a company and they're running the company and they don't know anything about managing people and they're fucking it up and it's hurting people. And that's a really common pattern in the games.
I think that's really, really true. Like, and I wouldn't even put it down to just like interpersonal stuff. So for example, I was watching Anthem and you see a lot of people being promoted from, design positions up into executive positions. That's completely different skill. Like project management is a different type of skill to programming, and this just like a persistent problem with all employment, not just in the games industry, but generally the idea that in order to progress, you have to end up in a similar analytical managerial position when actually your skills are completely different when you start and become important. So the idea of programmers becoming. It's not just programmers, like, it's writers, it's anyone who doesn't have that.
I think also there's a push towards minimal risk sort of decision making generally. And like, obviously, if you were to make the kind of Sujish point there, it would be that programming is all about, determining a completely reliable outcome to a series of things you've decided, basically. Like, if you create a program that doesn't always do exactly what you expect it to do, then you've done a bad program. And this philosophy applies up and down the games industry in quite damaging ways. Like, I think the current addiction to, data-driven game design that affects quite a lot of big multiplayer companies, is going to run its course because it doesn't account for every new success. The desire to have perfect information on what audiences want before making a decision, which is pretty common among the larger, more famous kind of companies in this regard, has been paralyzing for them. And meanwhile, the new hottest thing, whatever it is, whether it's auto battlers or battle royale, has always emerged from this kind of messy, like disordered, completely dysfunctional, almost sort of design soup of like the modding communities or just random stuff colliding. And the system, like, it's fascinating to me how incapable of generating those sorts of ideas the most expensive idea generation mechanisms in the industry are.
Yeah.
Like, literally, the most money is spent on delivering the smallest results within that particular environment, which is very kind of, I would not say programmer-led, but programmatically led sort of approaches to game design, where it's about
I think that's an executive mindset. It's not necessarily like a programmer's mindset. I think that is also, there's just, before you invest and risk, you need proof of success before you do that. Otherwise you're being irresponsible, right?
Right, but that in turn affects the sorts of people who are put in positions of power.
Yeah.
So people who are going to be put in positions of, foremost creative or design decision-making power will be people whose belief when it comes to design aligns with those of maybe a risk-averse management layer or something like that. And when that's the case, you're going to get people who believe that data is going to lead everything that they're going to do, and that's always going to deliver the next great game. And it literally never has.
No.
It literally never has in the history of the medium. And so at some point, that data point probably needs to be considered.
Yeah, it refines what's already there, but it never ever
Yes, it's a mechanism for refining. Well, that's the problem. It's a mechanism for refining what is already there that has no natural endpoint.
Yeah.
You can never stop refining. Like, you can always have more data. You can always gather more data. You can always test more. You can always do more QA. The data can never tell you when to stop gathering data. And so that is ultimately paralyzing and leads to endless iteration cycles and nothing coming out.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. There's a bunch of companies that applies to. And
Absolutely. Yeah. But also, the way they get around this is, by bandwagoning, essentially. And we've seen this with auto battlers. It's just literally, massive publishers, like, they wait for, so one of the reasons that I, report on PC gaming as opposed to any other is because this is where the new genres come from.
Yeah.
Like, this is the soup where the new games, the games
Primordial
of the future,
soup.
the PC gaming is the primordial soup of, new genres. And like, when something, starts to get numbers, then you get stuff like Epic suddenly jumping on it. You get, Riot suddenly jumping on auto battlers. Valve are like, oh god, we kind of, we've got to get in on, we've got to get this mobile version out ASAP, even though it's like relatively sloppy for what they tend to put out. And that is just, bandwagoning is a big, not a problem, but like it's how they work.
It's so cool that this is the case to me. Like, corporations they have so much power and they have so much ability to just muscle other people out and to dominate. And they're still doing that to some extent, but it's so, I love that the game design is this elusive magic that they just can't, no matter how much money they have, no matter how much talent they can hire. I mean, Valve hire everybody they like. They're just like, I like you, we're hiring, we'll at least offer you a job. Maybe you won't take it, but like, if you want a job, you can have it. And even with that, even having hired all the other people who had the last great idea, they're still not coming up with the next great idea. It still happens from the primordial soup, from this big sea of a million different minds, all coming up with crazy, wild ideas, and only one of them has to hit on the right thing. And I'm glad that corporations can't do that. I'm glad that mega, just having a lot of money and having a lot of power doesn't get you that magic. I mean, they can still actually be the ones who profit from it because they can just move faster than the other ones.
That's the thing, yeah.
Sometimes you can brute force things with marketing. That's the other thing.
Yeah, that's true.
With a big enough marketing spend, sometimes you can make fetch happen.
Absolutely.
But a lot of the time it doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how we got onto this from switching off in-game chat.
That was a good discussion.
Yeah, it was good, yeah. Next question comes from Andy, who writes, Dear Toe and Ho, that's how you pronounce Toho. Keep podding, Andy. Thank you.
I'm actually grateful for this, because even though I have not played that game, I still just kind of want to know.
Toho.
Yeah.
Toho. Toho. Next, Aiden writes, Hi. What if guard chatter in games was procedurally replaced with banter podcasts with the appropriate number of guests? Picture this. You're wandering around a town in Skyrim, and one of the guards is Sean Elliott telling a story of his youth to Jeff Green. You sneak off around the corner, and Pip is trying to explain the plot of Star Wars to Chris. Then Mark Maron and Obama wander. It would beat an arrow in the knee is what I'm saying. Thanks, Aiden. I think this is actually might be brilliant.
It's a sensational
that's
idea.
Really good.
Sensational idea.
I think the only thing is it requires game developers to accept that sort of no particular setting for this, thanks.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Yeah.
It's like back in the old retro FPS world.
Yeah, Quake can do this, no problem.
Yeah, Quake could pull this off.
Quake
Yeah,
and was it Dusk?
Dusk would do it very well, yeah.
I tell you what, if you're making a Quake-style game and you want free guard chatter,
we'll do that for free.
Email us. Like, seriously, you can have this for free.
I'd love to see some NPC bugs.
So if they could have our raw files, that would really work, because what you really need is like the audio sources need to be different for the different people.
Yeah, you can have the raw audio files from our
We've got it. We've got the tech.
Yeah, exactly.
We've got the tech.
Or we could just talk bollocks for like half an hour. Maybe flip this. I think this might be like, we had an email about, can we advertise on your podcast and stuff? We always say no, because Patreon is sufficient. But like, it's obviously a struggle how you make money as podcasters. And obviously hiring, I'm saying this and doing myself out of work, but hiring writers and stuff, that seems time consuming and stressful. Why
Don't do that, for God's sake.
If you are not really fussed about world building, why not just hire some
dudes in a room who spill whiskey on themselves while trying to make a point, to just talk bollocks. Because, I mean, all you really need the player to know is that guards are here, right? That's why they're talking.
Right.
They keep talking about fucking anything.
And I'm a huge advocate of like naturalistic voice acting. Like I just desperately want games to move further in that direction. I love the voice acting in System Shock 2, which I gather was at least partly the dev team. It was like programmers and designers and stuff just reading scripts. And at no point did it ever strike me as unprofessional or anything.
Yeah, right.
Just because, at worst, it sounds like just somebody sending a business email to their friend or whatever. And I recently was watching a video of the Blair Witch game, which I knew nothing about. And I think it was an IGN video, and I just kind of skipped to the middle of it. And I didn't know for a minute whether what I was hearing was the game dialogue or IGN people talking about the game they're playing. And it was IGN people talking in a very naturalistic way about the same way they were playing a game. But because it's Blair Witch, and I know like that movie was very naturalistic, for a moment I thought, oh, this is the style of the game. They're like the people in this game talking about what's going on are talking about it the way you would on a podcast. And it was amazing. For a minute, I was like, oh my God, I want to buy this game. I want to play this. This is incredible. But then I realized, oh no, this is just IGN people. Like the game still has just movie dialogue and it's not naturalistic, but it's so powerful. Like just having people talk.
When it's done right, yeah.
But Blair Witch was like almost entirely improvised by the actors. Like it was actually done on the fly, and they filmed way more than they actually put in the film. And those techniques should work in video games. I'm not aware of them being applied very often.
I'm not aware of improv being applied to video games. That's super interesting.
Yeah. And why not? Like, I mean,
well, because I think because the reason improv works is because it has very low technical requirements, like stage improv, right?
Yeah.
Like stage improv is assumed to come with mime, right? Like that is part of the discipline, is you learn how to mime stuff in a way that people understand what you're getting at.
Yeah.
And that is essentially a way of getting around the fact that you can't plan to have particular props. Prop creation is a big part of game development.
Yeah.
So those things do fight each other, but yeah.
I saw a really interesting talk, and apologies for creating an extra show note at this point. But,
that's all right. That's quite deep in the thing, but yeah.
They talk about the voice direction for Tacoma, which was, I think the guy talking is, runs like an external company for doing this. So he's a voice director, and he's talking about, how they recorded the dialogue, and, they call it focap. So it's not mocap. They had the actors walk around and do the things that they're doing, but they didn't capture their performance in a mocap studio. They hand animated the models that you see,
and then redid it.
But the voice you're hearing is from someone who was doing that thing at that time. So whether it's decorating a cake or jumping, there's one scene where somebody jumps onto their partner and their partner catches them, and you can hear them being kind of winded by it. And the actors actually did this.
Yeah.
But one of the technical challenges they had is how the hell do you record that? Because if you have like a headset mic, like a Britney Spears type thing, that's going to get in the way and it's going to brush against stuff, and the thing's a problem. So they first of all, they did a lot of research on what kind of mic worked best, and they found this one particular mic that worked really well. And then where do you put it? The answer they came up with was they glue it to their forehead. So every actor is wearing a mic on their forehead that's just pointing away from them, but it's good enough that it catches their own speech, and it never gets in the way of anything. So there's never like paper rustling or hair brushing past it or anything like that. So they can do all these like big physical things. They can be walking around the space. They can do all this stuff, and it just records this perfectly clean audio, which is amazing.
I think that maybe the Galaxy Brain version of this is I want to play the immersive sim where you come across the guards and the guards are recording a podcast.
There's just a microphone there.
Yeah, they snuck off into, it's not like, it's like, you get the card game, right? The guards are sitting around the table playing cards or whatever, like having a drink.
Shall we gather tonight for Crate and Crowbar?
Exactly, yeah. And I want you to be able to, this is the thing. All right, yeah. Okay, Arcane Studios. I want to be able to systematically disrupt that in-game podcast. Like you kill or tranquilize one of the
and the other hosts continue.
Yeah, right. Smells takes over.
Like, oh, Tom's been murdered.
Jim, aren't you still playing Odyssey?
Yeah.
Jim?
Exactly.
If you tranquilize all of them, Pip appears and solos the podcast for the rest
Where
of
are
the
my magnums?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I've got whiskey on myself again.
Said the NPC.
This is a brilliant idea. I really love this question. I think it's brilliant. I like the idea of, not necessarily like importing podcasts, but importing like naturalistic conversation that is relevant to the world into NPC box.
I mean, this is the dream Ubisoft keeps selling us with,
Watch Dogs 3, yeah.
Yeah, what's the Division? Their gameplay videos for that are always just this like perfect team where you almost can't tell whether it's voice acting or it's supposed to be players playing.
Right.
And it's supposed to be players playing, but they hire.
It's extremely well constructed banter mates.
Yeah.
They've stopped doing that now, but because it was fucking dumb.
It was really embarrassing.
It was.
But I mean, there's an argument to be made like that stuff. It wasn't realistic enough that you bought it as actual players playing this thing for real. But it was more naturalistic than the voice acting that you would have in like a Call of Duty game.
Yeah,
and I would rather have this than the voice acting in the Call of Duty game.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I understand where I stand with like Call of Duty Army Man is pretending that we're all in the army. Whereas when the game is like sort of knows and is trying to provide me with an experience that's more like real players, there's sort of an uncanny valley there, I think.
I think any improvement on the sort of Obsidian and sort of Bethesda RPG crash zoom on a face that goes, I'm really out of Nirnroot. I think you should find some Nirnroot. You could find Nirnroot near rivers. And like anything that is not like that is good for me. Like,
Yeah.
The Witcher 3 is very good at this. Like,
I don't know. I kind of wish all conversation was like that because it would just make life a lot easier.
that's true. Easy to pass.
I wish I had a Magnum. Magnum normally in freezer. Magnum not in freezer. Magnum now in Sainsbury's. You know?
Maybe it would be better.
Maybe it would be better.
Quest accepted.
Yeah, exactly.
Purchase Magnum.
Like I say, and we've said this many times on this podcast, the Oblivion persuasion system is superior to all other forms of human communication.
It's also the stupidest fucking game system.
I know, but I want to know how you feel about what I'm about to say before I've said it.
Yeah.
Do you want to make the physical facial expression as well?
Yeah.
But also terribly animated. A potato fear expression.
The fact that I might be about to tell you a joke.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Can you communicate it in semaphore?
Only in 4-letter words.
Nice. Our final question is a quick one. It comes from Loz, who writes, Outer Wilds in-depth spoiler cast when? Hi guys, my question is that subject line, because if there is any game that has come out in the last few years that requires an in-depth spoiler cast, it's that one. I completely agree. I really want to do this, because honest to God, it's mostly an excuse to say, The Outer Wilds is almost certainly for me the best game released this year, and it might be the best game I played for a couple of years. It's really, really good.
Yeah.
And the only thing stopping us from recording a spoiler cast, which we have been meaning to, is the fact that not enough of us have finished it.
Yeah.
Because it's only me and Tom Francis so far.
Yep.
So
But I, Tom Senior, will now finish it
Yeah.
if there is a prospect of
you're
this
racing
podcast.
Alex, basically. If we can all finish it, we can do a four-person.
Oh,
but
that'd be good. That'd be good.
Yeah, I mean, he's away for like 2 weeks. At this
He
point.
is, yeah, you got time.
I can
You've
finish
got
it
time.
I can
Yeah.
finish it that time.
There's an addendum to this podcast, which there's a question which I do want to address, just in case people have been worried about this because of recent delays and things, which is bonus question. If you feel like talking about it, podcast dying? Sad face?
Oh, no.
Oh no, and it's definitely not.
No.
But I wanted to address this because I understand why people might get the impression, because we've had to just take a couple more skip weeks than usual over the last couple of months, and because obviously we've had some availability issues and so on. I can understand why people would think this, and also because it is the fates of all podcasts splutter out. Very few podcasts go out in a blaze of glory. I don't think it's possible for the medium, really. You know what I
How
mean?
would you even do it?
No, I don't think so.
That's not what's happening here, though.
No. No, it's simply been availability. Like we've all gone through in weird sync, like a kind of series of quite tumultuous sort of life, business. And obviously there will be changes to come, but also maybe some good things coming up. Mm-hmm. Maybe some people coming back. Who can say?
Ooh. Cool.
Indeed. So, with that in mind, with that weird noise I just made in mind, but I completely understand people worry about this sort of thing. But the other thing is that obviously, and as we segue seamlessly into the outro, the great thing about the way Patreon is set up means that we only get funded for the episodes we actually do. Mm-hmm. And the great reason this is great is not only because it's fair to the people who choose to back us, but what it means is that there isn't this pressure on us to have to get an episode out because people have paid for it already, which I would certainly feel. If we were charging like a monthly rate or something for a certain amount of episodes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that doesn't mean that it makes it easier for us to not do things, but actually sometimes I think lately the healthy decision has been, we're all really busy. People are on holiday. People are taking breaks for once, which doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, right.
Let's just accept that and skip a week rather than trying to get an episode out by hell or high water, which has certainly been my attitude in the past, where like Pip and I have recorded episodes at 6 a.m. on a Friday just to make sure that they happen. And I think sometimes it's just healthier to say, we're going to skip a week, and you will get an episode. And obviously if you do back us on Patreon, and we're massively grateful if you do, you'll only pay for it if we actually do it.
Absolutely.
So yeah. And this applies to all of them as well, including the spin-offs. Like, you gotta believe, like, me and Pip are talking about Little Grey Cells, which we appreciate has had an almost a year hiatus at this point. And that was after a several month hiatus. But, you know, we're moving house soon. When that's resolved, maybe that'll be a setup we can come back to. And similarly, Miniatures Monthly, which has had a break because you, Tom, have been mega busy and all the rest of it.
So I think a lot of it is like quite unavoidable stuff.
Yeah,
just
life,
sort of
basically.
like coalesced in this particular year. And, like, I want to reassure listeners, it's through no lack of passion for the podcast. I still love doing it, and we all love doing it. And yeah, it's gonna continue. Like, we still, it's fucking great.
Yeah,
I
it's
love
good.
Grey
And I'm very, very,
I love Grey
one
Rock.
else, quite, you know, yeah.
I love our community on Discord.
It's good.
Join Discord. It's awesome.
Yeah. If you would like to join Discord, you can find a link for that on our show notes. I'm going to do the outro the wrong way round. Let's spice things up. The Discord, if you would like to find it, is linked to on our website, crateandcrowbar.com. Patreon, if you'd like to know more about it, patreon.com/crateandcrowbar. If you'd like to send us a question like the ones we were just reading out, but before that last bit, you can find the address for doing that by going to your,
By typing
it's questions at, doing it the backwards doesn't work. I can't do it. Questions at crateandcrowbar.com. You can find us on Twitter at crateandcrowbar, YouTube /crateandcrowbar. I do appreciate that in the list of things that we've failed to keep doing, I did forget to mention Bloodborne. Fuck knows. If we'll ever go back to that.
Yeah, shit.
Do you remember that thing we used to do, Tom Senior?
God, I literally only just recalled that.
Yeah, exactly. Oh boy. Maybe.
I really want to finish that though.
Me too, but oh god, my life is so full of things.
Also life.
Life is so full of things.
Yeah, right.
What else do we do? What else are the links that I say? I don't think that's all of them. I think I've confused myself by doing them out of order.
Individual Twitter
handles. I almost never tweet. I really don't. But I do have it. It's at C Thurston. That's CTHURSTEN.
I tweet very occasionally, but not very much. Tom Senior, I'm at PCG Ludo, LUDO.
I tweet all the fucking time, and I'm at Pentadact, PNTADST. I actually have something to shout out, which is, if you've heard me on this podcast talk about Concrete Jungle in the past, I finally got around to making a video about it and just showing how it's played and how it works. And that's on my YouTube, and it's also on my Twitter, which is Pentadact.
I appreciate this 11th hour show note.
Yep. That's good. Tom has a very good, Instagram, like, that feeling when a bird is on your head is an extremely good post, and I enjoy that immensely. So
I went to Paris, I had to milk all the content that was there.
You 100% at Paris.
Yep.
Good.
Thanks for listening, everybody.